Any final comments?
Okay. Bless his little soul. He wasn't even on mute. Um, happy Friday, everybody. Let's introduce our panelists for tonight. We have Mistaken, the AP, Marky Mark, Harrison, and Enos. I am Shan Monet, and this is a Chic critique. Woo! Hey, you guys. Marcus, you know we heard you talk about some context, right?
Well, I'm fine though. I'm still blind, so I'm about to be over here like Cyclops. I can't see nothing. So if y'all making funny faces, I won't be able to laugh with you.
Luckily, you don't need to see to talk.
Yeah.
Actually, I need to see to hear because most communication be nonverbal.
I do too. That's
true.
That's true.
I agree with that. So today we are talking about why Western women, and this is actually going to go a couple of ways. That's towards the end, okay? But why Western women are unhappy. But first, before we go into why Western women are unhappy, what was the subtitle we had, Mistaken? What was the subtitle?
You were saying something about who gotta be the bigger person or something like that.
Why don't you be the bigger person? So to wake everybody up, I'm gonna get a nice topic, an out there topic first, okay? So let's look at the first video. Start out with a bang. Bang, bang.
Can baby mama stop father from coming in the delivery room just because he moved on?
You found someone else. You moved on.
What you mean I found someone else?
You don't want to be a part of this baby's life anymore. You found someone else and moved on. What else do you want me to do? So I just
allow me in the room with my child.
No. You cannot.
Are you really being like this right now?
I'm being like this.
Really
you don't want to be with me anymore, so what's the point?
What that have to do with my child? That got nothing to do with him. I want to be a father in his life. How about you let me do that?
For that. Other than that,
go to court for that?
Other than that, you're not a part of this anymore. You chose her over me and this baby, so it is what it is. What do you?
So everything I have done up to this point, you don't care about none of that.
No,
none of that matters.
I don't.
None of that matters.
So why don't you?
I'm gonna be there.
Why do you?
I'm gonna be there, regardless. Even if you want me not to be there, I will be there, and you will not be able to stop me. What security gonna do?
You can't come in there.
That won't stop me from going in there. I'm gonna see my baby, and I'm gonna go in there whenever I want to do.
Looking at him in the window.
No, I'm gonna do whatever. I'm walking right in that room, and I'm gonna see my little Johnny. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about none of that. And you not gonna stop me. No security guard finna stop me. No, me and her gonna be walking in there.
You get to come in the room
because that's my baby.
You can see him.
Guess what? This house is my house.
Okay, so I can leave.
Okay, yeah, you can leave, but I'm gonna be in the hospital. I don't care about none of that. Guess what? I'm gonna be in there. I will be in there, and you won't stop me from being in there. I don't care what security gonna do.
I just couldn't take it no more. I had to stop it. This is how it usually all begins. 85% of baby daddy, baby mama drama begins somewhat like this. So, guys, what are your thoughts on here, on this situation? You guys
only though
unsweet tea, just to let you know. Go ahead.
Only there was a solution, because he stayed in the house with her, right?
No, she stayed with him.
She stays with him.
And he moved on, or he got somebody else or something, and he was trying to bring the other lady to the... It's almost like that they... It's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. But it sounds like they're doing something that we don't allow in this country.
But the other lady's not going for it, though, Marcus.
Probably because it's taboo and she mad and he ain't honest, but...
Yeah, we call it cheating
crazy.
Here. If it's not consensual, it's called cheating here. Or it's just called, he chose somebody else over her here.
That's wrong. And do y'all think that really happens that way though? Like, honestly?
Yes. Yes.
Why niggas be mad?
I say 70% of the time, this is probably what it goes down.
I will say, go ahead, Harrison. Or HD, go ahead.
Harrison ain't got nothing to do with it.
So
look, I got a lot to talk about with other stuff, but this one I'm like,
So,
Okay, go ahead, AP.
1 second, I'll be back.
Yeah, 70% though. That's wild. I like so. God, if a man leave y'all just can't move on.
Well, look, can I get my? I want to.
She
get
left
my
him. Wait. He left her with a baby though. Like he left her with a baby bump. Yeah. So this dude decided to knock her up, knowing that she was not going to be long term.
Yeah.
Let's keep it 100.
Moved her in.
Like
we don't even know at what point they live together. They start living together.
Like
how she gonna be in his house and not in the delivery room is kind of crazy. Because where's she gonna go back to after she leave the hospital?
We're also for the fact that he said he's gonna bring the other woman into the delivery room too. Like we're just gonna pretend like that's not probably the reason she doesn't want him there. Like, come on.
This is so funny how we're all on the same page
hilarious.
on this one. I thought it would be so different, but we're all on the same page. Anybody have a different point of view on this? I have mine, but it's kind of like what you guys are saying.
I think this is great. I think this is fantastic. I think this is communication at its finest. Both people are honest. He's like, listen, because you messing with that girl, I don't want you in here. Well, and what was really funny to me is like, you in my house. I'm like, hold on. What?
So I can leave.
And then she was like, oh, okay. I was like, hold on, man. Like, first of all, this is so funny to me. Like, this don't even sound real. Like, this is how crazy this sounds. Like, it don't.
No, okay, so you guys really don't. Okay, so let's just listen. You guys don't really think that there are situations that this takes place in. Maybe not the whole conversation that they're having, but we have seen situations where a person gets knocked out and move on with somebody else. And we say it all the time, oh, he's moved on with somebody else and she's bitter. She's a bitter baby mom and she's got like a kid under a year, which means something similar like this happened. You know, it probably didn't happen when she was pregnant, but if the kid is under a certain age and he's moved on, you know.
I think it happens. I agree. I don't think it's impossible or that. I would say this is about a 20 to 30% situation, right? That's my opinion. Now,
I actually agree with Shan on this because when you look at like take the whole joke and the whole skit aside, right? Let's just kind of put it to the side and look at the context of it, right? This dude is not staying with this chick. She's pissed. That's really what's going on here. He's with some other lady who he's probably gonna knock up and probably leave her too. Like this to me, I think is probably the most common thing that does happen. Maybe they stay together for a year or two and he knocks somebody else up. Like this to me, this is the now it's funny the way they did it, but it's
I don't think that it's so weird. We can't. So I don't think that. I think that she was saying that they were in a commitment with each other. You understand? Because even if you lock it, why would she be in your house? And she said, "Oh, you chose her over me, then you can leave. Then that's fine." It seemed like it's something like you just made a decision that you don't want to be in this relationship anymore. If you want to go there. You know, there are men out here who aren't even attracted to pregnant women, and they get like that whole, you know.
I heard something about that the other day.
I see it a little different. I think he's a butthole for being, doing what he did, but I think what is being missed here is already in my mind is already setting a precedence of what I think the co-parenting relationship is probably going to look like moving forward. And is the mother is upset at the father. So now I'm going to use the kid as a pawn between the both of us.
Right.
He left her. He didn't leave the child. the way that it sounds, because he's like, I want to be there for my child. I want to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to be there. I'll go to court if I have to. So it sounds like he wants to be an involved parent for right now, but it just sounds like she's upset, and rightfully so. She got probably hormones going crazy. So how she's feeling is probably multiplied on the way she would have felt anyway. But then he's adding on to that, like, I'm going to be here and I'm going to bring, my chick with me, that. So I think he was being disrespectful and petty in that regard. But the fact that they're going to have a child, they need to start practicing what that is going to be like. Like, yeah, I hate you. I don't like you, but I need you to be present for the child's sake, because now it's no longer about how she feels or how he feels. It's about the kid. And I think that's the part that's being missed.
Let me ask you a question, Mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
You're married and your husband brings another woman to the house and says, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What are your emotions going to be like? You going to be calm?
Absolutely not. That's what I said. Rightfully so. She's upset, and she should be. She should be, but I would like to believe, well, I know I wouldn't, because I've been in that situation with my, my husband before we got married. I was going to say, I would like to believe that even though I'm angry at my husband, that I wouldn't put our child in the middle of it. And I can say that I've been in a situation with him in our younger years when we had moved in with each other. And then I was like, I don't think I'm ready to be out. And I was going to move in an apartment in the same building, one floor down. That sounds stupid, but my mindset was, there's no way that I'm going to do this full time by myself just because we're not together. You're going to be involved. And he wanted to be involved too.
I don't think, from what I gather, I don't think she said she just said he had to go through the court. She didn't want him in the delivery room. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what she said. But what I'm saying is, I think this is starting the precedent of what it's going to be like, probably for the rest of the relationship.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Anybody else want to say? Go ahead.
Yeah. So
I wonder. Oh, go ahead, Dina. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I agree with the majority of what Mistaken said. I don't think that that's two people that don't care about each other. I think when people care about each other and don't know how to figure it out in a healthy way, this is what it looks like. Because if they didn't care about each other, I don't think he would have put her up in the house, especially while she's pregnant, especially while she moved on, right? If he didn't care about her, she'd be out. If she didn't care about him, I don't think she would be so hurt about him moving on. These are two people that do care about each other, that just can't seem to treat each other with respect. And yeah, we can argue about like healthy versus unhealthy, but this is when people talk about like having these social skills for conflict resolution, it's so that situations like this are navigated a little bit more easily instead of what we just listened to.
I agree. I like your take on that. You're right. I hear passion. It's almost like a tit for tat. Like you only do it when you're trying to get under somebody's skin. Like I'm gonna get you, I can get you harder. And so, but at the end of the day, he still chose somebody else over her though, while she's pregnant.
I'm curious what Marcus and HD thinks about this. Could this be a possible trap situation? Could she have possibly tried to trap him?
In the scenarios of like that I do know of, because I was thinking about it. I know like two people personally that probably had a similar situation, and they claimed that they was trapped. They didn't want the kid. So yeah.
No,
but
I don't think it's a trap.
I don't think it was a trapping situation.
He wouldn't have moved her in.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the little time he had to move her in. She's probably like, what, 7 months pregnant?
Well, I don't know if he moved her in when she was pregnant. Could it be possible that they were already living together?
Right.
I seen a viral video about this. The this couple, one lady was from Africa, and it was like she was with a white guy, and they had just went viral because he was buying her ranges and all this other stuff, and then she got pregnant. He didn't want the baby, and then he like kicked her. You know what I'm talking about? And he kicked her out like when she was coming back from the hospital. Like she had to find a new place to stay.
Damn.
That's cold, bro.
That's cold blood.
That's cold blood.
Listen, these streets, look. Baby, you gotta be ready. Prepare your kids for these streets because they are not playing with you. This ain't back in the day when your parents was young. No. Anybody else wanted to give their opinion on that video?
Well, I think it's interesting that I watched this clip of this movie. I think it's with it's a popular movie, but I think it was the show version of it where one character had said something to women always think about the best interest of the child. And I think Tay Diggs is in it. It's a remake. Y'all probably know it. I just don't. My black card has been revoked for a long time, so I don't remember the name of this movie. It's like Best Man Wedding, I think, Holiday, something like that. It's like I think
so. There's
Tay
Best
Diggs,
Man and then Best Man Holidays, the sequel.
Yeah. I
But
think
they did
it was
make the
best.
show, yeah.
I think it was Best Man Holiday, and so I think this situation is that they was in a relationship for a while. They liked each other, and at some point they got pregnant. And now he's just like, well, I'm tired of dealing with you. And the only way that I think that he might have stayed, or she might would have. What was that?
It was on TikTok or something. You know how it's just start you scroll and it's like start playing. He's like, shut up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's man.
But this leads me to question, because oftentimes women have explained to me that they're smarter than men. They are more prone to take care of things and do these things. So in these situations like this, do you think that it's more important for this particular woman in general? Do you think it was more important for her to be petty, or was it more important to actually do what's in the best interest of her child? Because is it possible that she thinks by her separating them because they don't want to be together, do you think that she is subconsciously thinking about a better scenario, that if the parents aren't going to be together, it's better to completely separate each other, or this was just out of spite?
So I'm not a mother yet, but I'm going to lean on I've got a pretty good understanding. I'm going to lean on, come back to me.
So
I was gonna say that I just think it is her and her emotions right now.
I mean, imagine,
and I think rightfully so. I think I don't think she's wrong for feeling the way that she feels. I don't think anybody can judge the way somebody feels in a situation like that. And it is hard to put your, big girl panties on or pregnant panties on and think rationally when you're hormonal already.
Even when you're not, like,
well, that's what I was going to say. It's even amplified when you're pregnant. But I definitely think that she is like, well, you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you, because it's like she knows that he wants to be there, and so this is my way of hurting you because I want you there for me. You chose to leave, so now I am gonna get my lick back by not letting you in a room with me.
I've heard several men say like it's sometimes best to not want to be there so you can be there, because it seems like the fathers who don't care get the most liberties as far as being around the child. Like I've heard this like philosophy. I don't know if y'all familiar with it, but it's like the fathers who don't do anything, they make exception for. Whenever you want to come see the kid, you can see him. Whenever you want to do XYZ, you got open arms. Like whatever relationship you want to build, I'm here to support it. But the ones who be trying to seem like they get ran through the ringer, from what I've heard men say, I've never been through the child support situation, but I've heard.
Men don't follow this advice. If you have heard that, men, I know. I'm saying, men listening. If you have heard that and you think that shit works, don't do it. You as a man will regret it if you really want to be a part of your child's life. Period.
And man, AP got new camera angles. He got new swag. I see you playing.
Go ahead, Ina.
I see you over here. Yeah.
So outside of the pettiness, right? I think because he's the type of man to go tit for tat, do you think that he's the best person to have in the delivery room to add stress to an already stressful situation? Like, I understand her saying that it's because he's moved on, but even in the dynamic of how they work, I can't see how he would be supportive in that moment instead of making things worse.
I don't know. I think he should at least be given the opportunity. So my thing is, if he gets in there and then it does turn into what that ended up being at the time of her delivery, then I think it's time where she could be like, can you just have him leave?
So is it shit come too?
No.
She need to be on the outside.
So let me ask you a question. Would y'all be okay? Let me ask you a question real fast. So would you be okay if she got a boyfriend and both of y'all, the boyfriend and you were in there together? You're able to have two people.
Hell no.
Oh, so it's okay for him to have a girl with both of us.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I don't think anybody here agreed with him bringing the other girl there.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, can I share a story with y'all right quick?
Uh-oh.
Is it gonna be like? Go ahead, Harrison.
All right, so listen, I'm gonna give this brother the benefit of the doubt because I'm gonna share a story with y'all. Randomly, we had a conversation with my father, and he asked me, "Do you know how I responded, or you know what I said when you was born?" I was like, "No." He said, "When you were born, what I told you was you were the most beautiful thing in the world to me at the time." And I was like, I never heard my dad say something like that to me ever in my life. And I want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt because when you're in that room, you see her struggling and fighting to bring this child into the world. Right now, they both being petty. Cool, fantastic. But sometimes when you get into situations, the stuff you say you would do and how you respond might not be how he responds in real time. So I'm willing to give this brother the benefit of the doubt. Now, granted, he bring that girl in there, it's curtains. That just is what it is. But I think that when push come to shove, when he's in that place, like y'all mentioned, this girl's still staying with him. And he already chose the girl. So, I think that he cares a lot about her, even though they're not together. And then also she has his child. So there's still some level of care for her and the child at the same time. So I think that if he were to be allowed in there, I would hope and pray that he would have a change of heart, see what she's going through, and be what he needs to be in that moment to make sure that that child comes through, the best way possible.
I just got a quick question to the ladies. Let's say you are that. What percentage would you say of women are willing to be that dude's other woman, knowing he has a woman pregnant at home? You know what I'm saying?
It's a lot of women who will do it nowadays. Yes, it is. It's happening right now. We probably got a few in the chat. Look, that's
Jesus.
that happens all the time. So I wouldn't.
Why do you do your people like that? This is your chat. Why you do them like that?
Because I don't think it would be the majority. I would definitely think that is a minority group of women that would do that.
I just said it's a lot.
I think there's a minority group that would do it knowingly. I think the rest of the majority don't know that they're the other woman in that situation.
And you know what? A lot of times what happens is they'll find out once their feelings are already involved. And at that point, it's like it's hard to back away. Men don't tell women what's going on. They wait, they wine and dine them until they know they've got them, and they just slide it in there. Like, by the way, I got a kid on the way. And now she's like, what? And her feelings are already involved. It's hard for her to leave.
Is one Curtis serious?
You said what?
Well, one Curtis in the chat. He just said, yes, we do. I have 2 girlfriends. I've had them both pregnant in the same house at once.
I mean, think about that. We know of people, we've heard of people who've had people pregnant at the same time. You guys, we've seen that.
Well, yeah, but like I said, I don't think that's the vast majority. I definitely
Of course, none of this is the majority, but it happens a lot. Enough to talk about.
With what one Curtis is talking about, wouldn't that be closer to the polygamy side of things?
Well, that's what I was going to say. If that was his situation.
Yeah, that's consensual. It's a little different. This woman clearly did not know that this was going to take place. Any final thoughts? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I think we got to make sure we always make that distinction between consensual and deception.
Right.
And it sounded like, I don't know, he could refer to us and let us know, was it consensual and was, everybody on board with it?
He said they were in the same house, so I think they knew what was going down.
He's saying 7 years, 5 kids with both women. So
I would say it was consensual then.
That's not the same as what.
No, hell no.
This lady does not agree with the situation.
Can you run those numbers back? What? How many?
Is there such as forced consent? And what I mean by that, now listen, what I mean by that is I say consent by default. So if let's say they were together and, living together, whatever, he meets somebody else and then he just moves the other woman up in the home. Now, if I am, I would say if I'm your dependent, so to speak, like if I've been living with you and you've been taking care of the household and, I don't have anywhere else to go because you're the primary, source of income, you move another woman in, I really don't want it, but I have to deal with it because of my situation. Is that consent?
No. So that's considered financial abuse, emotional abuse. That's not, it could be coercion. It could be a whole lot of things, but that's not consent. Backing somebody into a corner, it never equals consent.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Go to her mama's house? Her girlfriend's house?
What if her mother's in a different house? Or a different house?
How do you even know y'all so special? Okay, you guys, let's move on. Does anybody else want to add to this topic? Because this is another one that's kind of like this one. Pick your brain.
All right, friend, let's discuss. So a young woman reaches out to her baby's dad because she needs a little help. She's like, listen, I'm struggling. I just need you to take our daughter for a little while so I can get on my feet. So the baby's dad responds and says, I don't got nowhere to put her. I live with my girlfriend and my girlfriend said the baby cannot come here. So the baby mom reaches out to the girlfriend. You see it. Yes. And the girlfriend's like, yeah, the baby can't come here. You better ask his mama. So here's the question. Is the girlfriend wrong for not allowing the baby to come over there? And is the boyfriend wrong for moving in with the girl knowing that his baby couldn't come over there? It's a lot to unpack here, friend. Let's discuss.
Oh, I got very strong opinions about this. I'm gonna let y'all go. That is one sorry ass man. Period.
Period. Before we go to the next
I
topic?
concur.
Can we please do what?
Can we please discuss something right quick?
All right. I think both of them are wrong. However, I think wholeheartedly it falls on the father, on the baby's father the most. The reason is because that's his child. So he needs to put his child first. Going or dating a woman who knew you had a child and then say that you can't have your child when you're here with me is crazy. And for him to tell the baby mother, like, well, my girlfriend said that I can't, like, that I can't have our child here with me. He's, I would call, I don't know, punk, deadbeat. I don't know.
She don't want paying the bills.
Yeah.
No bills.
Yeah, I don't know what word to call that. But on the flip side, for the woman, I think that she's messed up because of the fact that she got with a guy knowing that he had a child. So when you are dating a person with a kid, they are a package deal. So if she didn't want that responsibility at all, to have to be, supportive of him while he has his child or whatever, then she shouldn't be dating with him, period.
So my take on this is a little bit different, right? I don't think the girlfriend is in the wrong at all, right? She can make that decision because he's backing her up. The baby father is the one who's allowing her to make that call, right? Whether she's paying the bills, whatever, he is not the leader of that household. She is. So if whatever she says goes, that's on him, because men are supposed to be the leaders, right? He was in the wrong for choosing that woman. If you wanted to be an active father, you should have never chosen a woman who does not want to be part of the blended family. But at the end of the day, I don't think the girlfriend I think she's well within her rights to make that decision. She doesn't want to deal with somebody else's kids. She shouldn't have to, because if you...
Well, that's where I think is the nuance, because I agree with you. She absolutely has a right to choose not to deal with the child. But when you intentionally are dating a man that has a child, then to some degree, I think that means you're okay with dealing with a child. If she wasn't, then she should have never, even if you say, well, it's his responsibility, he should have never dated her. There is some ownership on her part too.
But here's
in a relationship.
Here's why I disagree with that, right? She picked the right man that she can do that with. She picked a man who's willing to say, my child can't come here, right? Had she been with a man who said, no, we're not doing that, we're not playing that game, wherever I live, my child is coming, and she still moved like that, then she would be in the wrong. But she has the man that she's living with is backing her up on her decision. So for me, regardless of how we feel about her not wanting to be a part of that child's life, she picked a man who follows the same morals and values that she does. He's willing to negotiate his involvement with his child, right? If that man was like, this is non-negotiable, she wouldn't have a choice, right? She would either have to leave and the next woman would fill her position, or we would be in a situation where she's playing stepmom to a child she resents, right? It still falls on him. It still falls on him. She can make whatever decision she wants, but if he's backing her up, she's not in the wrong.
Just because somebody backing you up for doing wrong don't mean you're not in the wrong. I see that all the time, where people have each other's back for some stuff that is, ain't right. And that's not right. And even though he backed her up and says, okay, I 100% agree with you that the responsibility falls on him. The whole 100% falls on him. But I still don't think that she's without fault at all.
Okay, I'm about to use some midnight language. Mistaken regarding the female, I actually agree 100% with your point. But I'm not talking about the female. I'm gonna talk about this bitch ass dude. This mother. First of all, men, bro, don't move in with a chick. That's her house. What she say, go. If you live with her and you don't have another place to go, You a bum ass dude. Yeah, I said it. You a bum ass dude. Get your life straight. You giving off these raggedy ass, pookie ass vibes, following this woman around, doing whatever she's telling you to do. Your kid needs you right now. She don't need your baby mama don't need you. Your kid needs you. Period. And if this chick don't want to get on board, if this chick don't want to get on board, a king leads his own damn castle. A king leads the castle, not a queen. Queen can't be a queen without a king. Period. So get your bitch ass off the couch, look that woman right in the face and say, look, if you're gonna take my penis, you're gonna also take everything that comes along with it. You're gonna accept everything I got. And if not, your ragged ass can kick rocks. Yes, my kid is coming to live with me. You bitch ass dude. No, that ain't your mama. That is not your mama. You ain't living in your mama's house. You are not 16. Get your grown ass up. If you don't have enough money to pay bills by yourself, get another motherfucking job and carry 2 of them so you can get your own house, so you can get your kid. That is your responsibility, nipple. Bitch ass dude. Soft ass. What are we talking about? That's your kid, cuz. Yeah, I said it. I said it. Yeah, mistaken. You're right. You're right. She needs to accept the whole package. This motherfucker needs to offer the whole package. And pardon my language because it's not midnight yet.
You have me scared right now.
No, that is the most upsetting thing. There are men paying $50,000 to see they kids.
Okay, your microphone is doing right Star here. Wars.
This dude, I'm going Star Wars.
What's the Star Wars thing name again? What's the name from the 80s?
I can change the setting to tell it to the computer. Am I going robot on y'all?
I think the mic kind of was like, he started cuss. Let me just.
Hey, God is telling me to calm down. But for real, if you are a real ass dude, your kids is your responsibility from 0 until you leave this earth. Your kid is your responsibility, period. And I'm not here to argue about it. And if anybody is pissed off in the chat, you can kiss my ass too. I'm done.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say?
Yo, we need AP with this camera angle and this mic. This man is Pinky Samuel Jackson. What? Like he was like, say what again? I dare you.
Noko.
It is but it's a lot of people like that. It even to the point where I think that even the talking point is when men have children, there's not as much of it's easier to find a woman because men don't have a kid as much as the women do. I've heard them say that on in the manosphere, whatever you want to call this. But in reality, things can happen. Something can happen to the mom. Something, an incident like this can happen. And it's like that same woman who was like, okay, I'll sign up for it because you only get it like every other weekend, becomes the full-time mom. And sometimes those women don't want that position. And so nobody ever thinks about that. What happens when the other parent, if something happens to the other parent and now you become the full-time parent?
Okay. I will defend the girlfriend in one instance. She may be the scapegoat of the situation. Because I have heard and have seen situations where the guy genuinely did not want the responsibility. So he puts it on the women to be like, hey, listen, if this situation happened, we don't want to court, if she come hollering at you or something like that, listen, just say you don't want this, that, and the third, and then we just going to be on one accord that way. Now, do I agree with AP? to some degree. I think men should lead, but all men ain't great leaders. So depending on how good or how bad a leader he is, we're not going to make that argument. But I think that I agree with this as far as if you are the man and that is your child, I don't care what this woman say. That's my child.
It shouldn't even be an option, right? Like, why is this even an option?
It shouldn't be an option, but that's why I said that this girlfriend might actually be a scapegoat, potentially. Highly unlikely, but potentially. And then also I look at it like this. I think AP might have rightly assessed that he might be staying with her. So if her house, her lease, her rules, which is probably why a lot of guys don't stay with women and that they rather women stay with them so that they can have the option and that they have the leverage. So I think that in this particular situation, I don't think she's wrong for saying how she feel. I don't think it was wrong for the baby mama to be like, hey, listen, I need a help and ask for help. And I do think that the man should have the option to deal with his child or not deal with a child. But I still ultimately think, personally, if I was in a situation, I'm taking care of my kid. Even if, I don't feel like it, that's my kid. You know what I'm saying? That's my flesh and blood. There ain't nobody else's flesh and blood. So I think it makes reasonable sense that the father take care of his responsibilities, that he helped cause. And that if you're with a woman and you have a child, and this woman got the nerve to tell you that you can't bring that child up in here, you either need to level up and break out, or you just need to make some real lifetime decisions and be like, listen, what's more important, this girlfriend or this child? And I think at this situation, I would choose the child because this child didn't ask to be here. Yeah.
Just real quick before Marcus goes. If this dude is using her as a scapegoat, he's an even bigger bitch than I said he was. Like, you can't man up and be like, yo, like for real, I'm staying with this chick and she don't want any kids in the house. No, hey, babe, when my baby mama hit you up, tell us your idea. You bitch. Yeah, I said it. You a
bravo, sir. Bravo. You know what I'm saying? This is AP is in rare form tonight. You know what I'm saying? It's like Hink 2.0, the AP version.
You done reset his Wi-Fi, reset him. Shoot.
I told you, it's the angles. He got angles. He got mics. He probably got a swivel camera sitting around his head with blood and lightning and everything. Like, he got Samuel L. Jackson coaching him on the side. And then he got that dude that played Pinky on the other side. You know what I'm saying? He got the best of both worlds up in there. This is great. Bro,
it's funny. Now, look, it's funny that you say that. It's funny, real quick. It's funny that you say that because I do got a drone. And I'm gonna figure that motherfucker out too.
I'm telling you, he got that thing circled around. So he watching the clips. So when this is done, he gonna watch the chopped up clips, right? And then he gonna have his own clips of him watching the chopped up clips, and he gonna put that on YouTube. I'm telling
you. Yeah. So yeah, I gotta agree with everybody who said it was Buddy's fault because there's no way nobody gonna make me leave my kids someplace, be it a bus station, homeless. I'm just not going. Like, at gunpoint, I can't go. So yeah, I blame him for that. But what's wrong with us as a people when we just say I don't want kids? Like, let that kid be homeless. You know what I'm saying? Like, how we get to a point when we don't look at everybody kids like this. Obviously, that's not your child. You knew that dating him. But you still look at that child as an extension of her or a tool of something that causes animosity for you as opposed to a child. That's a child. Like, children need to be careful by us, like not discarded and treated like a problem. Like, we in a crazy position to even have to debate that.
I agree, Marcus. This generation, they just throwing kids like they're like it's the worst thing on earth. Like, it's so sad and just it's sickening almost the way people look at children in this generation. I can't even explain it. Like, we don't even it's like a disease or something, like, oh, it's your child, you know, and it's like,
it's also crazy because I think about like in like my community where, you know, I was growing up when I was younger, how you were the community, you as a child was everybody's child in a community, in terms of, if my mother wasn't there, then I know Miss Jones, she gonna be keeping an eye out. I gotta be careful and not do something in front of her because I know she's gonna tell my mom, you know, stuff like that. Like, or you go to your friend's house and you go in their house and you're like, hey mom, because that's your mother too. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see a lot of that anymore, like at all. I know when I had, you know, my son, that was one of the things I wanted. I wanted our home to be the home that the kids come to, you know. But I, like you said, I totally agree. It's very few, far in between, where I meet younger, you know, guys and girls or whatever with parents where that is how they are, where, yeah, oh, come over, yeah, bring out, you know, that kind of stuff. Like they, yeah, I totally agree with you, Marcus.
Go ahead, Inaz.
So, question, because like we've brought up the fact that, you know, he's probably living with her. Is leadership conditional? Like, does he have to be? Does it have to be his place for him to still be leading the household?
Hell yeah.
Depends on who you ask.
I would say, especially if you're not married, I understand there's a level of respect that you supposed to have just in general when you're in a relationship. But if you're the man of the house and you're not married, and that's not your house technically, then how can you be the man of somebody else's house when you don't have anything? I'm just asking. I'm talking out loud. I'm just trying to ponder and think about that. I'm thinking about it out loud.
Because
Inasha set me up again. Look, don't move in with no woman. Dudes, do not move in with a woman. It needs to be your house. And if your name ain't on the house, it is not your house. She will remind you it's not your house.
Yes.
You don't call shots. She calls the shots. Because guess what? When she say, hey, you got to get out, guess what she gonna do? She gonna call Johnny Law to get your ass out if you don't want to leave. She can move into your house. You don't move in no chick house. What are we talking about? So should you be the leader? Should you still be the leader? To answer Inaz's question, yes. She ain't gonna let you. She gonna tell you, no, you can't bring your kid to my house. If you want to see your kid every other weekend, take them to the park down the road, because this is my house. Run your house, gentlemen. Run your own house. I'm done. Go ahead, Inaz. I'm sorry.
I don't know what y'all talking about, but I like where this is going.
So gender war general is here, so I'm going to ask the question again. Since we're talking about a man who is potentially living at his woman's house, is leadership then conditional? And then to what I was going to say, to what Mistaken said, are you the man of the house if it is not your house? Can you call yourself that?
If you were moving in a traditional fashion, right? If let's say the situation could not be avoided, or let's even say you don't even plan to live there long term, right? Maybe y'all are engaged. You've already decided, I'm not staying here, you know, past a certain point, because we're going to get our own house. And of course, you can keep your own property. You earn this. You bought it for yourself. So let's say you're staying there temporarily and it might take longer than it should. Yes, you are the man of that house. That's a big, that should be a big test for your relationship as well, because you can't, it's not only who's making it conditional. The woman is the one that's going to make it conditional. She's supposed to be already practicing the role of wife. And that is absolutely the best test you can have, when everything belongs to you and you still let a man preside over it. That is, I can't think of a better test. And the worst part about it is that, I'm not going to lie, I think I can pull that off. I 100% could pull off living in a woman's house and being the man of the house. I don't think a lot of men understand how to take control without causing friction.
But Trigger Mike, I actually agree with you. My question though is, if you are in a dating, type situation, I agree with you. If the part that you said, if it's temporary because we're about to get married, so we want to save a little money while we're engaged, and then we get married and we move into a place together, or a scenario where the relationship is on a trajectory to marriage. If it's just we live in right now, we dating, and I moved you in, and there's no clear, pathway to anything, and we just trying to fill it out and see what happens, then at that point, I don't think he is going to be the head of the home, because we don't even know at this point where it's going. To be honest, they shouldn't even be living together if it is.
I was gonna say, that's why the elders. It's funny how we spent the better part of our adulthood trying to prove that there was a new way to do things, and it just turns out the elders were right the whole time. Don't shack up and don't do all this stuff for this very reason.
Yep.
So it makes sense.
So look, when I was managing the real estate portfolio, I had about 1,100 units. So some of that stuff I was privy to as far as the inner workings of their families. And to answer your question now, I think it is possible, and I'll tell you why. Just as it's possible for a man to pay all the bills and not be the man of the house, it's possible for him not to pay the bills and still be the man of the house. Back to Trigger Mike's point, I think it's the way in which you move as a man that dictates that. Although you will want to be or should want to be in that position, I think that the way you carry yourself as a man is ultimately going to dictate the terms and what you allow to occur in that relationship and what type of relationship you allow yourself to be in. I had a situation where the girl was on Section 8, the guy lived with her. And funny enough, this whole child can't come over literally happened. And that guy, he was like on house arrest there. And he was beating the lady up because she wouldn't let his son come in. And we ended up having to put her and him out because of it. And I've seen other scenarios where the families worked fine. They had 3 or 4 kids and everything was cool. I would see them walk as a family. They didn't have no car. They would be walking down the street every day as a family to the park and back to school and back. And she seemed to really love him and admire him. So I've seen it work in both ways. It depends on the man, it depends on the woman, and the dynamic they set up. I think money doesn't dictate who you are as a man, the benefit of having it or the lack of not having it. It doesn't change the principle of that dynamic, in my opinion.
I agree. And it has to be the mindset of the woman that is in her psyche of what the head of the home is. So whether it is her home or not, if that's just her disposition, she is going to let him lead. But I don't think many women are, especially now, are like that at all. So I'm speaking from that perspective of this day and age with that. No.
So I think this is extremely unfair. And what I mean by this is unfair, it's from the standpoint of, like, in this situation, she owns the house. Let's say, for instance, she owns the house. She's on the lease, her place, her rules, her stuff, right? The question is like, all right, can he still be the leader and the man in this situation? Here's my issue and why I think that this situation and these situations like this is unfair. It's socially acceptable for women to have the option, versus for men, it's not socially acceptable for men to have the option. Even when a man isn't doing what he's supposed to do, he's still labeled as the leader. Even if he's not leading that relationship, he's still judged as a leader. If you're going out to eat, more than likely, if he has the funds to pay it and you're going out with a woman, more than likely you're going to have to pay. if you want a person that if you want to be in a relationship with a woman, there's going to be at some point that you're responsible for her physical safety and well-being, right? Or else she's probably going to disappear. Too often you hear these conversations keep going back and forth about all the options that women have the choice to submit, to lead, to do what they want to do, say what they want to do, wear what they want to do. Women can do whatever they want to do when it's convenient for them. However, when the shoe's on the other foot for men, it seems like you don't get that same grace to let that woman lead. If guys are out here letting women lead, yo, he's getting clowned. And then we'd be like, well, shoot, our women are leading our households and they expect these things to work out the way that it should, but women weren't designed to lead the household the way that they're doing it, right? They were supposed to be covered. They were supposed to have a place where they can have like this territory to be able to watch over the kids and do all that stuff. So I think it's extremely unfair.
Absolutely.
That it's only an option for the man, for the woman, but it's not an option for the man. And I agree wholeheartedly that if you are the man in the relationship, no matter if you got a dime, you got $1 million, you take the large responsibility for this family. Whether you got money, whether you don't, whether you got resources, nothing, you are the man. And you should be the man. Now, granted, all men aren't to be trusted with leadership. I agree with that. But to me, I think it's also unfair that you want this man to protect you, to pay for stuff, to do all the things he would still be doing as a husband, but yet your submission, your respect, and your deference to him is always going to be an option until you feel like he's worthy enough. And I just think this is extremely unfair.
Pick a different chick then. That's
Well
still
said,
your fault.
man.
I said it.
I think that goes into something I've been saying for years now. That's why I made that statement to say the right man can go into any situation with a woman, no matter what it is, no matter if it's her house or not. If you understand that men lead, we don't lead by desire. I think that's the narrative feminism pushed, that men are out here having chest beating contests saying we're in charge. I promise you, I was raised by a Nigerian man and I'm not even like that. I think men lead by expectation. You know, if we're sitting down trying to chill, saying I don't even want to do it right now, you'll notice if it's something involving leadership, it won't get done, or it won't get done correctly until you eventually step up and do it. So I think that is what is expected from most men, especially in situations where it involves a woman. That's why it's actually deemed as disrespect when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and a woman is still trying to exercise any kind of power or control in the situation. That's why I said most men who know how to call it out and move swiftly and quickly tell a woman, like, hey, that's not how this is going down. I'm not going to be doing this. And you do. Most men have not been educated nor trained by their own fathers to say you don't accept that type of behavior, because not even that it's just disrespectful, it's bad for the woman. Whenever a woman steps into that role, she's out of place. And the worst part about it, she'll start to lose respect for you because of what you let her do. So don't let her do that to you, right? She will feel perfectly at home in her feminine space, like my man is going to take care of it. He said he was going to do it. That is where women thrive, in that space. So let her stay there. And if she happens to mosey on into your space, put her ass back in hers. It's better for the relationship.
So Trigger Mike, I 100% agree with you. I think that a lot of times, right, when men get in relationships and they allow that dynamic to occur, those be the relationships we see they get divorces, right? Those be the miserable married men we see because they not respected in their home. Like, we show love and respect differently, right? So we interpret respect as love, and women interpret love as love, or attention rather, right? So when she's in a position where she can talk down to you and not look up to you in any way, shape, or form, she's losing respect for you, which in turn equals losing love. And now that potential for her to want to see somebody else or just think that this ain't the right thing, it heightens, right? And you'll end up in this 50-50 divorce rate culture. But yeah, and as a man, you can potentially, depending on the type of man, most men, you can potentially start to harbor resentment towards her, and maybe end up in a situation where you look to somebody else that may praise you, right? So it's a fishy dynamic. I think you're 100% right with the change in economy, right? So it's not just industrialization, well, post-industrialization, when men aren't physically doing the labor, and a lot of the heavy lifting can be done mentally or through computers, and women have the opportunity to get educated and make more money. That dynamic is always going to have the ability to change and shift. In the new world, if we would like to still have family, women will have to agree to those terms of he's still going to be a man regardless, or I'm not going to date him.
Well, I think it's all about showing and proving. If you say that you're a man, then you have to be the man, right? The only time a woman can run or lead anything, like run a household or what's the saying, wear the pants, is if you take them off. Both of us can't fit in the pants. So I know it's in our nature to test, and part of that testing is to see if you are going to be who you say you are. Now, anytime you shift, now, unless you're a very mature, person, to, just be respectful regardless. But I think the younger you are, the less mature you are, you're learning and developing into that. But if, again, whether you, like you said, your manhood is not determined by how much money you make, right? It's about how you carry yourself, how consistent you are. Do you show up like you say you're going to show up? Do you do what like you say you're going to do? How you're moving, like all of those things. As women, we're looking at that. Are you going to be a protector? If you lose your job right now, how does that shift your position as a man? Do you stop doing everything now? You know what I'm saying? So if you maintain the same consistency, regardless of what happens, then I don't think a woman will lose respect for you or switch it up or now try to jump in and take over, because there's no space for her to do that. Is when the man loses his focus and what his role is and his position is in the relationship, that women are able to step in and do, take over.
So I
go ahead.
Thanks, AP. I agree with you, Mistaken. I think, unfortunately, the number of women that function like that is dwindling, right? I think with fatherless homes, there is a majority of women that don't know how to take that back seat, how to not wear the pants. And when they're with a man who wants to wear the pants, they become really combative. So they wind up choosing men who opt out of wearing pants, right? I think that's really when it becomes tricky, when women don't know how to give up control. Some women get really impatient. Some women feel really insecure when they're not in control. Some women get really fearful. Some women feel like they're going to be taken advantage of. I think a lot of women have not had it as an example and have also not been taught how to sit in that. And I think that is like just as problematic as the men who let their women wear pants, right? I think it's both parties that are really struggling because things haven't been modeled and they're not taught.
Yeah. I'll say this to add to that. That is such an oversimplification of what is happening. So I look at myself as the consummate, like textbook leader, right? Was raised to be husband style. Don't take no shit off of a woman. This is what your wife's supposed to be doing for you. I was educated to this whole ordeal, right? But I still have ran into and dated for an extensive period of time women that were non-compliant, because you're going through that honeymoon phase. You're not really talking about anything serious. And do you know what leaders do with those women? We eventually leave them. Well, I can't be with you. How are you going to make it hard for me to do my job as a leader? That's why. So most men do not end up, men that are leaders, true leaders, don't end up with women like that. Because I remember saying many times on this panel, we are always talking about, well, if a man is just a leader, a woman will follow. That's actually an oversimplification. Good leaders choose great followers as well. We actually look for situations in which we can succeed. If I'm looking at a woman like, damn, this woman listen well. She make me look good out here in these streets. She takes my instruction and immediately implements it to what I want to do with our kid. So we choose women that execute on a level in that makes it almost look seamless, right? Because if I could have chose a lot of women that would have gave me a lot of problems, and I might even be divorced today if I'd have made those bad decisions.
I think one of the worst parts of that trigger, Mike, is the men who had a skill set possibly to fix the women who are the most to the other end of the spectrum of what we're speaking of, combative or contentious, usually end up with the easiest going women because they have to pick a list. That's really, really messed up how society work out that way. But it's what's happening,
But
right?
you know what it is though, and when I say I've messed with some, because remember when we're young, it's exciting, it's sexy, she feisty, we give it all type of words. But then when your dad show up to your apartment, say, I need to talk to you about this girl, man. you said, I'm like, oh, this is real. This is real. He doesn't like her. I thought he was just hating on her. No, he's giving me play-by-play details about how this will work out once we have children, once we start acquiring assets. He's giving me play-by-play. This is what these women tend to do. She is going to give you problems at every turn. It's not just going to fall off, and marriage isn't going to make it easier. So, you know, most men realize that, damn, if I want to win the game of life with my companion, I have to choose a pleasant, easygoing, good listener, willing to like follow my leadership with willing to follow all of that. So it's an all-inclusive experience. You got to pick the right girl for that.
But do you think part of it too is also being patient and allowing development? Because based on what y'all are saying, so when I met my husband, I was not where I'm at now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I just wasn't. I was feisty, whatever you want to call it. But because he was who he was, I shifted. I can't say that is necessarily that he saw that I was going to be a compliant, because I wasn't. That just wasn't my personality. But I guess he was mine. I didn't know it, but it was something about him that I guess his leadership, who he is, how he came at me, that I eventually changed. So sometimes I know you do have some people, and it's their prerogative to be like, I don't want to take the time to have to adjust. You know what I'm saying? To make you adjust. I'll rather find someone else that is going to be an easier task for me to do that. So those people have that option. But what I think is that sometimes we jump out of stuff so quick when when stuff isn't going our way, or if it's not smooth enough or what have you, and not give the person the time to make necessary changes. If I met you when I was 26, I had 26 years of habits and behaviors that I've learned. And to think that you're going to be able to get with me and then I'm going to just change everything like that at the drop of a hat is unrealistic. So it is about giving some time for that person to adapt and grow. Like, I'm so not like I was when I first met him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you experienced a luxury. That's all it was. You got the benefit of the doubt for some reason, and he saw fit to do that. But
you know what it was, though, Harrison? You know what it was? She wasn't as bad as she thinks she was. That's really what it is. You thought you were terrible.
I don't think she was from New York and he was from New York, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, girls, like, I was terrible. No, he dated other women, you know. He
definitely did.
Thing, you know.
I'm gonna be honest. His baby's mother, like when I look at the both of us and we're like so different. She was compliant, like very compliant. And I'm just like, dang, why you know, because that just wasn't my personality. But I think over the more time we spend together and then over the years, you do make adjustments. So I can definitely say I'm much more patient than I was when I first met him. I'm less likely to pop off when I first met him. Like, a lot has changed. I know that I've grown and changed in those areas, but he took the time and gave me patience to allow me to do that. Had he just been like, nah, I'm not, like, I don't, you know, I mean, we wouldn't be where we're at now. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I do think you need to give the person time to make the adjustments before you just, you know.
So I think this actually goes more to what you're saying, goes more to trigger Mike's point. You said that his baby mama was a bit more subdued than you were. I don't know how long you knew her or how well you knew her. Maybe that was more him than her. Just like you, who you are now, maybe attributed more to him than necessarily you. Yeah, you got to make the adjustment, but it might be his communication style. It might be a whole bunch of little things that makes him him, which goes more to trigger Mike's point when he says that he feels like he can get probably most women to fall in line. It might have more to do with your husband than any of you women.
Oh, absolutely. I know it was him because I didn't even realize or recognize that I was changing. The reason I recognized is from what other people were saying. Like, oh, you let him do that before? You would have never. And, you know, so other people were pointing it out, whereas I didn't notice it in the moment. You know what I'm saying? So then after a while, I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I was okay with being who I, you know, started changing into. It didn't make me feel like, oh yeah, let me snap back real quick to kind of show up, you know, off in front of the people who were saying that I would never do that. It was just like, this was just a natural progression of being in a relationship. You make adjustments, you make changes if you care about the person, you know, and I just changed.
So I just want to make one other point, and I kind of want to point it back to the video. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna use your husband as a quick example because he had a baby mama, and you could have easily had been the woman that says, no, that child can't come to my house. I don't think you're built that way. But let's just say you were that woman. He's that man that would have said, yes, my child is coming to our home. And regardless if it's in your name or not, he would have said, yes, this child is coming to our home. And if you would have said no and been stuck on a firm no, then he would have said, thank you for your time. Have a nice day. We also have to be willing to let women go. If we are already going to be, we're already held accountable and responsible for everything that happens inside the home as the leaders of the home, we have to assume that leadership role, which means that if there's a female that's not going to abide by, and I hate to say it that way, but abide by to what we see the direction of the home, we have to let her go. That is 150% on us. If we all agree that women control the access to sex and men control the access to relationships, that means we shouldn't be having a relationship with that kind of woman. We give them time, yes, maybe, but if she's just going to sit firm on that, to the hell with what you're talking about, we have to say to the hell with what you're talking about. Just my 2 cents.
So I agree with that, AP, and I think the other thing is that there's a whole lot of just dopamine fiends walking around here. You just need that fix of happiness, right? And people don't understand delayed gratification anymore. Our brains are wired differently than they used to be. I think so many people just aren't willing to see it through because there's no guarantee for the result. Whereas if I get somebody who fits now, then, we'll find a way to work. That might not be it either, right? The divorce rates are 50-50 at this point, right? It's a coin toss. It could work, it could not work. But I think you're right, mistaken. If people gave each other a chance to grow together, to conform to each other, I think there would be a lot more success in relationships. I just don't know how you implement that with people who need that instant gratification. Because like the one question when this comes up that I see over and over again, well, how long do I give that person? To me, it's easy. As long as that person's making progress, you keep giving them time. But if my brain is wired in a way where if I'm not seeing perfection on D2, D3, people are getting tossed to the side as if they're disposable.
And to your point, AP, when I met him, like I have a daughter, I have a child. Like it was day one. Like if you're gonna be with me, we are a package deal. Period. You know what I'm saying? Like he established that from day one. So there was never a question or issue about what my role was going to be in relation to him. You understand what I'm saying? Like there wasn't a situation where you're asking permission. Can my child come over? Like, nah. It was such and such is coming on Saturday through, Tuesday. And then, she'll be with her mom Wednesday through, Friday. Like it wasn't an ask. It was here's what the setup is going to be. And because I knew he had a kid, it wasn't a question. It wasn't like, well, why? It wasn't. I knew he had a kid from day one. So if I didn't want to deal with that, then I wouldn't have got with him in a serious relationship. And she ended up actually coming to live with us from the age of 9. So
whoa. Oh, the daughter. No, my bad.
Yeah. Oh, no. Not her mother.
Hell yeah.
No. So I raised her from 9 until
let me find out.
Yeah.
Let me find out.
Well, your story is really, really great because it worked out. Too many times with the way that life is now, women have everything that they can need. They can work for themselves. They can work for other people. They can own their own stuff, do whatever they want to. Like, it's very easy for both sides. Oh, hold on. Is that better?
A little bit.
Yeah, it's very easy for both sides to just be like, I don't have to deal with this. And like, why would you intentionally choose somebody to become a problem out of the gate? If you see red flags out the gate, and I'm supposed to be a person that looks at habits that are a problem, why would I deliberately choose somebody when there's like billions or millions of people on earth? Why would I deliberately choose somebody I know is going to be a problem off the gate? Yep. That relationship only worked because you were willing to make changes. If you were not willing to make changes, you would not be in the position that you are in. Because I would say in the environment that you were in, you were conditioned to be that way. This is how you move. This is how you survived. Once you saw that you did not necessarily have to be that way in order for you to continue to grow and get the things that you needed and that you wanted, you know what I'm saying? You made the adjustment, and I just think that too often, like, even when men are trying to be men, quote unquote, like, we have to make decisions based on a case-by-case basis. You might look like a fine girl. You might have the potential to be the woman that I want. But realistically speaking, we take a risk, whether we decide to lead or not, whether we choose to lead or help or do whatever it is that we need to do for your needs. It's like we have to make smart decisions in our day-to-day life, because if you choose the wrong woman, it's very easily your life can be over pretty quickly. So I don't think that it is wise for brothers to see clear problematic behavior and just be like, I'm gonna give it a chance.
So I think there's a distinct difference between problematic behavior and someone who's problematic. Right? There's a big mindset difference between those two people. And I know men know this difference because you see it so much with coaches in sports. You can see a child who has really poor behavior, who might be acting out, and with the right amount of nurturing and leadership, that child then becomes like a great athlete in their respective sport. We don't apply that same level of effort to a woman who shows any sort of willingness to change. Like we've gone and women too. This is not just like men that do this. Men do this with women that have bad habits who aren't bad people. And women do that with men who are good men but may not have developed the necessary leadership skills to lead the way that they should. Right? Both genders are really discarding people at the first sign of a red flag. But I think people have these glasses on where they're seeing yellow flags as red. Not all red flags are a full stop. To be honest, some red flags are like, whoa, maybe we need to just take a pause and evaluate this. But so many people are so quick to seek perfection when they themselves don't offer perfection that, like, no wonder nobody's getting married and getting together. Men and women alike are not willing to put in the work to get the type of relationship that they all desire, that deep connection, that cooperation, that working together as a team, and everybody's doing that. Everybody's giving up on each other so easily, and then it's reinforced with a million different relationships. Everybody's jaded by the time they get to the person that they're supposed to be with. They're not even willing to work together properly. I think we really just need to have more compassion for each other, men and women alike. Everybody just needs to be way more patient with each other and recognize, like, this is a good person, this is a bad person. This is somebody I can work with through their red flags. This is somebody who is off rip uncooperative. Those are two very different things. Somebody can have bad behaviors. That can be changed. That can be adjusted. But somebody who doesn't have a willingness to change, to shift, to want to learn, because we're coming across so many people who haven't had the example. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to do it. That if you're not willing to give the person an opportunity to fail and to correct and to be better next time, why are we on here talking about relationships?
I can honestly say too, is that was it in terms of people saying, well, you had a willingness to change. I don't think it was necessarily, I'll say in the beginning, a willingness. What it was is like if you can learn a behavior, you can unlearn a behavior. And I think what it really was more along the lines of shaping behavior. Like the stuff that I was able to do before, I got certain responses then. But trying to do the same things that I was doing with him didn't result in the same responses that I was getting before. You know what I'm saying? So in that regard, I had to find another way to get the response that I wanted. And so ultimately it shaped and changed my behavior because I was looking for the response, and I had to find a different way to get that from him because what worked before no longer worked. So it wasn't necessarily in that moment a willingness. But once the changes started occurring and I saw the results that I was getting that was a benefit to me, then as I matured, then I wanted to make adjustments. I wanted to make changes. So, but like Inai said, he had to give me the time, the space, and even the encouragement. And sometimes, I don't know if discipline is the right word or consequence is the right word, in order, for me to become a better partner to him and a better person in general. A lot of what he was doing sometimes had nothing to do with him and what he was getting in return. It was about, I see something in you and I want to challenge you to be a better version of you. So that made me want to change.
Oh, all right. So I got a proposition for you, Trigger Mike.
Yeah.
Why don't all the men who be like using the term simp and all this other stuff, why don't they completely ignore all the dysfunctional women? Don't give them no attention. Don't make streams about them. Don't look at them. Don't talk to them. Don't compliment them. Don't have sex with them. And only focus on women that's acting correctly. And then y'all try and shame the men who don't do that and see where that get us.
Well,
You're the gender war
men,
general, so you need to issue these commands.
yeah, but it's because the women who are the worst are also the most promiscuous, and men need to have sex every once in a while. It'll never go anywhere. Who's giving up the ass the most is the unruly ones, right? So then, as long as that's going down, and the promiscuity of women is what sets the rate for the sexual marketplace. So if the only woman you can get is an uncooperative hoe at the moment, unfortunately, some men gonna rock with that, and that's the culture.
I'm gonna be mad about what I'm gonna say.
So if you
men are
have
not
to interact with
disciplined
those
enough
women,
to do that.
You know what?
you have
But
to interact with
mistaken. Remember,
wouldn't that technically make you the simp?
me?
Simp,
No, not
this
you
sounds
specifically.
simpish.
If you have to, so if the only women you can interact with are the ones that behave negatively, and you have to allow them to behave that way, wouldn't that technically make you the simp?
With a dirty ding-a-ling.
Yeah.
Men are not disciplined enough to do it. They can't.
I don't know if y'all caught the show today, but I cop to that all the time. So remember, mistaken. My ultimate viewpoint on that is sexual discipline for men doesn't exist.
It
doesn't exist.
It does.
No,
For black men, you mean?
Hold on. I'm saying by and large, it does not exist. Men will take sex any way a woman can give it.
Right.
So it's not like, you remember, it's fathers, it's restriction to access to women that existed. Somebody is usually standing in the way for us to have a society of chaste or less than promiscuous women. It's not really, let me not. Oh, look at this booty over here. Oh, she dropped her drawers. I don't have a condom. I'm not going to do that to you. That's not how men operate. Somebody gonna hit it. If 9 men say no, one is gonna be like, y'all niggas tripping. I'm about to dive in first.
D.
So here's my thing, right? Because I agree that the majority of men don't have sexual discipline.
They don't.
Right? It's not a real thing. There is a difference between turning these women out and like completely focusing all of your attention on these women. Right? If the currency of women is attention, then these streams about these cantankerous women, this repeated call to action for corrective behavior towards these women, like that it leads on that statement of like, there's no such thing as bad press. And the currency of attention, there's no such thing as bad press. Right? So to what Marcus is saying, okay, cool, sleep with these women. But if you spend your attention on women that are behaving in the way that you desire, are you not then reinforcing that behavior? And to this point, because you and Marcus were on the stream where there were a couple of people who talked about how submissive women disappear into the background for them. Like, that is the level of attention that some of these men are paying cantankerous women.
Absolutely. And let me put it to you like this. What I've realized is that it's now an endless domino effect. It's just a domino effect. The same way women crave attention, men have absolutely no ability not to give it to them because of the way they command it. If a woman is going to get your attention by lifting her shirt up, men are gonna look, and men are gonna pay her attention. That is what our society is essentially doing. If you don't put your clothes back on, I'm gonna keep looking at them titties. That is what dudes are going through now. So it's more of a natural. It's more of a natural back and forth to where nobody knows who's at fault, because it's like, I can't focus. I was talking about this with my wife. I said, babe, you have to understand that We were animals before we were civilized people. I cannot focus with this bus line in my face all day. Well, but women are saying, well, you should keep your eyes to yourself. No. I'm a beast. I'm literally have animal instincts inside of me. Men are so wired for sexual activity that after puberty, if we don't ejaculate, our body will do it for us in our sleep. That's how much we need sex.
Let me
All right,
ask you a question.
Yeah,
what is the purpose of, because I know some of y'all are religious, what is the purpose of fasting?
I don't know, cross religions, it's more of sacrifice to get closer to God. That's how I could summarize it.
We talk about fasting as not eating or choosing not to do something.
When you fast, it's like some people fast related to food. Like I know when I was in church, you do your fast. Sometimes is related to like just getting off of all social media. Actually, Inaj, you had did a fast that was around, social media.
Yeah, we didn't see her ass for like a month and a half.
Yeah. So the reason I ask is because one of the main things is if you're religious, that part of getting close to God, but the other part is learning how to control your nature, right? Becoming more disciplined in mind and body, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times when we sit there and, we cave over to say, well, it's in our nature to do, we're excusing the fact that we do have an ability to control our nature at times. That's what separates us from an animal. And one of the things that I can say, like, that impressed me about my husband, which is crazy. This is how I know, because I could say he's weird. He was just very different and ahead of his time, very different from guys his age. Is that even at that age, I was 18 when I met him. He was already fasting on his own. He wasn't like a religious, like a Christian. It was he was fasting on his own, not like just fat, like he stopped eating pork and all of that kind of stuff back then. But he also fasted from sex. I've never met somebody that did that, right? And me being, I guess, Eve, Delilah, whoever you call it, a harlot, whatever you want to call it, is that when the first time I had experienced that, where he was like, no, I'm fasting, blah, 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 my nature was to tempt him. I was literally, I know that sounds
you weird. Ain't shit.
I'm not.
Who was that? She at the door? Don't open that shit, bro.
And I know it was more about my own ego. Instead of me being supportive of his fast, my ego was like, I'm going to see if I can break him. You know what I'm saying? And that's messed up. I'm
demon.
To break him. You know what I'm saying? And
demon.
Yeah, right. And
look, he didn't last because he fucked around and married you. He definitely didn't last through the fast.
So when he was going through that fast and he didn't succumb to my temptation, me tempting him, it gave me an even higher respect for him. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. I could not believe that. Like, I was just like, nah, ain't no way. It ain't.
I bet at the end of that, he shot your ass through the roof.
I was about to say, at the end of that thing, he put her ass through the wall.
So, mistaken. I love that example because, like, it's not the tempting part that's in a woman's nature. It's the testing how firm a man is on his boundaries. That's a part of a woman's nature. Right?
I like the way that sounds.
It is.
Don't try to not demonize what the hell she did. She was.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not. Right?
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we could say testing. In my mind, at that time, I know where my psyche was, and it was, I'm gonna see if I can break him.
But that's. But here's the thing, right? When I say it's in the nature to test, regardless of where your psyche was, at the end result is when he stood on his boundaries, you gained respect. If your psyche was to tempt, if like it was in your nature to just tempt, you would have just been like, oh, this isn't working, and have moved on, right? Because there are women that work like that. But the thing is when a man stands on his boundaries, when a man's fixed boundaries are unmovable, there is an immense amount of respect that a woman gains for you. She doesn't always like it. She doesn't always like it, but not everything has to feel good. There's still gained respect there, right? And I think that's the part of the conversation that tends to get missed of like, well, you know, what was I supposed to do? Well, now that woman knows she has that leverage over you, right? And like Marcus talks all the time about like the leveraging in a relationship. If your boundaries are as flexible as a rubber band, there's not going to be a whole lot of respect. And what you're creating is more women that you complain about in that situation. So, yes, it is really challenging, right? I understand the way testosterone works and how much is pumping through y'all's veins, right? I understand the animalistic nature. I get it. But if the end result is to have a relationship where you maintain respect and leverage, there needs to be some sort of sacrifice. There needs to be some sort of discipline in the way that you move. Like, I hate that I'm saying this on the internet, but not all vagina is good vagina, right? Like, you can't.
We could have told you that.
That's a fact.
You want to take a poll?
You can't just like. You're working against your desired goal by just slinging D to everything. Like,
and the worst part is that you don't know it's not good vagina.
I understand. I get it. But like, at some point,
do you know how it feels?
Demonstrated that I don't. Have I given you any inclination that I don't get it?
I'm just saying, like
so am I.
Just a tip. You know what I'm saying? You know, never get that feeling.
I understand. I also understand how manipulative women can be. I understand the lengths that women will go to test a man's boundaries. I understand what those extremes look like. I may not exercise them myself, but that does not mean I don't know women that will go to those lengths or have not met women that will go to those lengths. I understand. But at the end of the day, if your goal is to get to that destination, what are you doing to get there? Right? The same way that we say, hey, there are women who really enjoy sex, right? There are women who truly enjoy sex. But if their goal is marriage, what is the advice we give them? Keep your knees together.
Close your goddamn legs.
Right. So if we're asking women to make that sacrifice in order to get to their goal, how is it? Because Harrison, you were talking about fairness earlier. How is it then fair, in your words, to not ask men to make a sacrifice to get to the goal that they're trying to attain?
Is it the same goal though? I'm sorry.
Hold on. It's the same goal for people who desire marriage.
Yeah. So I will say the sacrifice for men is usually not found in sex though.
But see, that's exactly where where your power lies, though. Too, like how.
But I wasn't saying sex. I was saying in terms of your boundaries being flexible. Your boundaries being flexible.
I believe so. I agree on the. You have to. I agree on the sacrifice part, meaning a man will have to sacrifice. But what I think most men sacrifice for the marriage is their polyamory, to be monogamous most of the time, or at least you're sacrificing your ability to. You're dedicating all of your resources into one house. You know, unfortunately for most men, you're never more attractive till after you're no longer available.
That's so you're
sacrificing a
lot.
That's
the temptation. That's exactly what I was saying in terms of speaking to when women see married men that seems like he's faithful and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They test it to see. There's some that will test it to see. That was what I was doing. Well, I was in my relationship, but I was testing to see. But I think what made me garner more respect for him is one, like you said, he wasn't, Inaz was saying, he wasn't flexible on his boundary. This is what he was saying. But the other thing that made me have more respect for him is the fact that, like you said, Mike, sex is probably at the top of the list for every man, especially at that age, right? The fact that he was able to discipline himself in that area, which is the hardest area for most men, especially in your early 20s, that one thing, since it was as huge as it was, it allowed me to also generalize in other areas about him before he even did anything else. It was like, damn, he was able to discipline himself, say he wasn't going to do it, stick to what he said he was going to do over sex, and he turned me down. Like one of those that it ended up being more of, well, if he could do that in regards to sex, then I know he means what he says when it comes to this or this or this or other things. So he set that foundation with my understanding of the type of person that he is, based on that one thing, which had absolutely nothing to do with me. It was him being disciplined, me being able to observe it, and then see that he stands on what he say he stands on. And so that ended up transitioning into other areas.
I have a question. Black men in particular, do you think that Black men choose sex over family?
Choose sex over family?
No.
And I'm not talking about the majority, because we know, and the reason why I ask that is I look at marriage rates. But we're not talking about the few of you guys who are the exception to the rule. We're talking about the majority.
I would say
no.
still.
The majority does not choose sex over family.
So why is
what I will say is that sex is usually the cause of you having a family in the first place, meaning you're gonna have to step up to the plate. Like, oh damn, you pregnant? Oh well, shit. And what we're really seeing today is a false narrative, because if men had the ability to be as involved as they wanted to be without women being able to usurp control over the children.
Okay, we're talking about, but they have control over marriage, right? We're talking about family, meaning a married man, being a married man, the head of your household as a married man. Do you think that men are choosing sex?
Oh, absolutely not. Oh my God, you sacrifice. Like the day you get married, most men sacrifice sex,
right? But majority are not married. That's what I'm saying. So because majority are not married, do you think that majority of Black men? Because I would say that it's a temptation for all races of men, would it not be? And they don't seem to have a problem with still being marrying. So for let me specify African American men, do you think that they're choosing sex over marriage?
No. The problem is very clear. Black men have no problem being married and following through on those traditions if those traditions were modeled for them. So Black men are not inherently more promiscuous than other men, and will say, forget this whole marriage thing. Absolutely.
So when you say
hold on, can I add one thing?
Let me look real quick. When you say modeled for them, what is the difference between being modeled for them and any other race of people who marry in the United States?
They have more fathers in the home. Therefore, they are the product of more married parents. Therefore, they value marriage and get married.
Okay, and I want to add this to as a caveat to what Mike was saying. I think that because we are seen as like the culture or whatever, right? So we have a hypermasculinity culture and we have a hypersexuality culture within the women. And I heard Paris talking about this as far as who Black women in general and Black men in general like can just outright respect, right? I think the skill set required for our men to be able to, like you said, tame you or train you to be the type of woman that he wants to be with long term. I don't think in general most men possess the ability to draw those lines and get the results that you want out of a woman. And I think to this point, like with your husband, even if it was not you, I think you would have had that same result with any woman he dated, because it sounds like this is a character trait of him. And I question how we can model that as men in mass And I kind of come up with like you know my solution for everything. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Let me add this to. Let me say this real quick, Harris. The worst part about what's going on with black men, let's say, is that most of us on this panel, I don't think the women, and I know no women on this panel tonight have done this sort of thing, but every dude on this panel has either been a cut buddy to a single mom who asked you to come over at a certain time of night because her son was asleep. And then you're leaving out or trying to get something out the fridge.
But what does this conversation have to do with single moms?
No. This is what I'm saying. You always cut me off when I'm trying to make the point.
Because you're trying to change the goal.
Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish the point. Then you turn around and that little boy's standing there. So I know that a lot of boys have been socialized that way from youth to say, well, shit, my mama did it. She had dudes coming through to the crib and whoop-de-whoop, and they end up being that dude. So when you say they're choosing sex, they think this stuff is normal because the woman they love most was doing it. She was an adult when she was doing it. She had a kid, she had a job, and she was a lady who could speak proper English. So I think a lot of black men are just basically suffering from that's what was modeled for them.
You're not
this
gonna sit here and tell me most black women was hoes to their sons. We're not gonna even put that out there.
I didn't call anybody a hoe. I think a woman.
You said most
black
men that happened to them. They walked in on their mama and the man was walking out.
What? I'm not gonna lie. I think if 70% of black men alive today were raised by a single mother, then at least 50% of them heard their mom talking to some dude in the middle of the night. Probably heard them having sex too. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Shan, I'm going to answer your question, and I know most of y'all are probably going to disagree with me.
Maybe
the answer is
what age group.
The answer to the question is yes, for those that can get it. Yes, they are choosing sex over marriage because it's so readily accessible to those that can get it. Period. Like I don't think that there's much of an argument about that. Yeah. But I think that the reason for this is because so are women. If you're choosing sex over marriage, why would I marry you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be completely honest.
Let me add this one thing.
Hang on, before Trigger Mike goes. So I asked this question a few weeks back, right? And almost everybody had an issue, not with the question, but answered very similarly to each other. The reason for that, AP, is because now the majority of men expect sex before they will give out the ring. They need to take a test drive. That is their requirement of, I'm not giving you a ring until I know you've got good box. So if you're asking that question, we need to be really honest about what the expectation is towards women. Most women are not going to get a ring without parting their knees.
All right, so let me throw that one back at you. You ready for this one? Are most women saying yes to a proposal before they get the D? I could throw that one right back at you. They need to test drive the damn car.
So
before y'all go off on the gender war tangent, let me just say this. I think men would be okay if the woman was a virgin. I think men understand what it took to get there. The issue I think that the men are coming in with is if you've had sex with somebody else, why would you make me the person to wait?
Yep.
And that's kind of the dichotomy. So we'll get into the gender war. So it's both. Like we are requiring that.
I think that's a great question, right? I think Trigger Mike's question was super disingenuous.
It's the truth.
Women, the majority of women are not proposing to men. So in order to get the proposal to say yes or no, that man has to get down.
No, I said accepting. A lot of women will not marry a man that they haven't.
Well, they ain't got the proposal yet to even see if that's.
Oh no! According to y'all, hell no. According to y'all have gotten 6 proposals. Most women will throw it in your face.
Talk about majority of women.
But see, here's the difference though. Women will marry a man.
You're not married. Oh, but I've been proposed to.
No. What I was going to
twice.
say is that even if a woman takes a test drive, like what you were trying to say, if a man proposed to her, even if she felt like the sex wasn't that good, she would still marry him. You guys wouldn't do that.
I'm wrong.
Hell no.
Hang on.
That's
whoa,
not true.
whoa.
Hell no, that's not true.
Whoa, that's
Can I
not
finish
true.
my point?
That's not true at all.
Look at
That's
the
not
let's look at the stats.
I don't think that that's what it is, mistaken. I don't think that that's what it is. I think that what has happened is men are getting what they want and not having to, women are without having to give women what they want. Period.
100% accurate.
And so what is happening is they'll say what they gotta say. She thinks she's in a committed relationship. She thinks he's dating with intent. He'll string her along just to drop her once she gives and she says, okay, I want the ring. And it's a cycle that keeps on cycling.
Absolutely. So me and my wife were just having this discussion, and she said, this lady is the queen of what if-isms. So what if we didn't get married and you still left? I said, you know what? If I just happen to be a bachelor at this age with this amount of resources, I said, I think I would be married. But the actual truth is, I pity any dude that's like me, that's out here in these streets trying to look for a good woman. Because just like there's a lot of smut bags out here, there are also too many good women that are single, if you know where to look. So you're literally having a hard time choosing. Plus, the worst part about it, you're getting exactly what you want from each of them. All of them are putting out, right? So the type of women that I date, it's like, damn, I'm a rock with this joint. She good, she pleasant, she speaks good English, she got a good job, career driven, and 3 months into our relationship, I get a hey big head from the other joint that tops her on 2 more categories. It's too much of that going on for men. Even for men who are looking for marriage. If you're a bachelor out here really doing your thing, all the women that you like are available.
So you agree that men are choosing sex over marriage. Thank you.
So I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. If you're not married.
So here's the thing, right? Like women are not only getting married, but also staying in relationships, having friends with benefits, every interaction that you can think of with partners who don't satisfy them, because the statistics are still that the majority of women don't reach orgasm, right? We could place blame on women or men. The fact still stands that the majority of women are unsatisfied in their sexual experiences. But to what Marcus was saying of like, if you're no longer a virgin, the expectation is that you need to put out, then why are we complaining about body count, right? If a woman cannot say, hey, listen, I've done it in the past. I understand you might feel a ways, but like, I don't want to keep repeating this mistake. Mm-hmm. Why is that weaponized against them? And then turn around and say, like, if your body count is too high, then you don't qualify for marriage. That sounds really asinine.
Well, the issue is that that's what men are hardwired to want, as far as them feeling secure and that their future is secure. Just like for a woman, the reason why all the women are saying they're not finding men that are financially attractive or smart enough or have the education is because that's what women feel like they need to feel secure financially so that they can survive long term. What we want out of our relationship long term is dictated based upon what we feel like is going to create a lasting legacy. You feel like you can be able to survive long term if you have the resources from this man, if he's smart enough, if he got boundaries, and he can stand up for you physically. We feel like we're straight if we know that you're going to be somebody that's going to follow our instructions, so I can protect you. Make sure that if I am having sex with you, that the seed that comes from that, I can continue to know that that's mine. And then we're able to operate the way that we need to when we get what we want and what we biologically need taken care of.
Perfect. Love it. Totally with you. Right? On the same page. My question still stands. If that is true, why is it that women who have made a mistake are now still obligated to put out before putting a ring on it.
But it's not just that they made a mistake. They done made 10 mistakes. And they have a history of doing this.
No. Hang on. Because what Marcus said, that he was very clear on his words. If you are not a virgin, right? That could mean one body, that could mean 10.
100, yeah.
Right? If the premise of the conversation is once you have lost your virginity, then that completely nullifies being able to keep your knees closed. Right?
Here's the answer for this. I'll answer this directly. It's because women, even though they're not traditional women, they still want traditional things. Like, even though she's not a virgin, she's still gonna hold your feet to the fire to get the things that she feels like is required of you as a husband and as a man. That does not change no matter how many, whether she's a virgin or not. It does not change. One bit.
That's
all right.
I'm gonna try and answer the question.
Can I jump in just real quick?
You got it.
Yo, y'all quit lying, y'all. Ladies, keep your legs closed. Men, quit talking this bullshit because it's a manipulation form. That's what it is. It is a manipulation tactic so we can bust your cheeks and keep it moving. Inaz simply stated exactly what Trigger Mike stated, but she said it in question form. Yes, keep your legs closed. That's the fastest way to a wedding ring if that's what you want. Men will say, hey, if you gave it up to somebody else, why are you making me wait? Well, as Inaz just pointed out, it was a mistake. Maybe it was 10 mistakes. Maybe she's turning over a new leaf. Maybe she's trying to change the trajectory of her life. Like, those are all plausible scenarios that your ass is not getting the box, and it doesn't necessarily mean she's putting you in friend zone. And if you need to test drive that car as a man before you marry her, you're a fucking hypocrite. Oh, you're a doggone hypocrite.
Now, AP.
Period.
Here's one thing that I have a pushback. Listen, like I said, like we spoke on this. You're right, Inaz. We brought this up some previous weeks ago, right? But just like a person who's trying to work on his diet, and he's a big person, right? The weight of your decisions has drawbacks, and it's not something that you can easily come back from. If you had sex with 15 people, right? Though you making a reasonable assumption as far as like, you know what? I've learned from the area of my ways and messing around with those dudes did more harm than good. Okay. You're now making smarter decisions. But guess what now? Now your mindset is different. What you've experienced sexually is different. Your sexual expectations is different, right? So now, even though you are thinking better and you have more wisdom and experience under your belt, that hasn't changed the traumas that you've accumulated, how you think, what you expect, what you want. And now, just like the big person, yeah, I know that eating this food for this long has been an issue. But as you continue to learn and adjust, you're still going to have to deal with the weight of your decisions up until that point.
So, Harrison, I think you're still operating from the perspective of, Marcus, I'm going to get right to you. You're still operating from the perspective of like, we're already at 10, right? The common consensus seems to be once you're at 1 and I'm potentially number 2, I should not have to wait. Like, that's how women get to 10 and 20. And now we're looking at women who aren't professionals, right? In triple digits.
No. Stop it, Enoch.
Hold on.
I'm not saying all women get to triple digits. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
no. I'm not.
We got real fast. Let's sum this up because I have a video that probably can answer this question for us. Mark, go ahead, and then we'll talk about it again after you see the video. Okay, Inaz?
Wait, no. Hold on. Before you do the video, Marcus, you can finish. But
no, we're gonna do super chat.
We're
gonna do them.
Okay.
So let's Marcus go ahead and do the.
So look, the issue that we run into is most men want to feel that they were a special person for their woman, right? Like she gave you something that she didn't give anybody else. And once you given the virginity away, then that eliminates that. So instead of feeling special, you'll feel the opposite of special if she makes you wait and she didn't make someone else wait. So it kind of puts you in a lesser than type of category. So I get what you're saying. Well, why does body count matter? So then the next phase, because two things can be true at the same time, right? So then the next thing would be, why is it that you ran through so many partners? Like if you valued the sex like this, right, then you would have maintained it, so you would maintain a lower number of sexual partners, is how men would view it, right? Because they would say, well, even though you gave this person sex before, I don't know, you could have been in a 5-year relationship before you gave him that. So let's just say you only did that 2 more times. I don't know too many men that's tripping on she's only been with 2 other people and they were her boyfriend before. I think where we run into the issue is the casual sex dynamic. And when men find out, like, all right, she was engaged in a lot of casual sex, the men that really care about body count, because I've heard them adjust the number. I've even heard them say stuff like, in this day and age, if you meet a woman at 35 with only 10 partners, that's like a virgin right now, right? So they've updated they've updated some of their standards with how they speaking. Oh, you got happy about that, Shannon? Yeah, you got to listen to the stream. I've heard them say this before. Listen to the men that specifically speak to body count, because they've come to the realization that it's not likely that they're gonna find somebody that's a virgin at this age that's in a similar age category once you post 30. Did that answer the question for you?
So y'all need to be getting married at 21.
We're gonna go back to, because I'm pretty sure it's gonna circle back around. Let's go to the super chats real fast, okay? New member.
Woo woo. Thank you, cool gamer. Dub Will. Hey, Dub Will. We've been going back and forth in another chain in IG. Salute Chic Critique. Dale Matthew, another member. Woo woo. Get the likes up, y'all. Big Bama 44. Fellas, get you a woman like Inaz. Shout out, Marcus. Dub Will. The answer to your question, Shan, is that marriage and family was always a tool for survival for Blacks in America. Once things got easier and the need to survive wasn't as severe, the less marriage and family creation you saw.
Huh?
I agree. I'm trying to get it off. Oh, hi, Frank.
I'm sure you are.
Thank you. Mike, shut up. Just hush. Thank you guys for the super chat and the memberships. Thank you. So we have another video that's coming up. Okay. You know what I really think though? Okay, let me let Tate talk and then I'll come back and say what I really think. Okay. Give me a second.
Yeah. We're becoming. Oh God. Do you know how many people sent me that video?
Tateism.
Who's that guy?
Tateism.
That's Andrew
I know who
Tate.
Tucker is. Who's the other guy?
I just have one question before we get started on answering this, because I don't know why. I'm sorry, I do know why. Andrew
I
Tate.
have my idea. Let me tell you what, and when you get done, Mike, I'm gonna give you my theory on what's taking place. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I have a few. Well, not a few theories. I feel like I know what's happening, but the one question I want y'all to make sure we answer and keep this in mind: these men that we claiming are so weak, who raised them? Who raised them?
They mamas and daddies.
Look, not their
their mamas.
Not their daddies.
Not their daddies. Exactly.
Because he was living with his girlfriend. His girlfriend said, "You can't come live there. You can't come over."
No.
Did we fail then, Trigger Mike? Who failed?
Their mamas. No. Well, so remember, there's a original sin, we could say, right? There's an original sin there on the behalf of men for allowing it to happen, and on behalf of women for biting the apple and saying, hey, I can take control. I can ease out a situation for myself here. But it ballooned into what we see today over control of the children with the aid of the government and child support, all that type of stuff. But the one thing before we start this conversation, I want y'all to, this will be a completely different conversation, and we can use other ethnic groups as an example. Are the men who have their fathers behaving like the men that Andrew Tate was referring to? Because if that's the truth, then yes, we can have this discussion in earnest. But I'm not about to have a discussion about a bunch of women raised men. Of course they don't act like men. It's obvious.
So I think what he was saying was pretty accurate, right? You have to balance that equation. Life requires balance, and if it's not, it's going to be lopsided and perverted in many different ways. And again, this go back to why I'd probably be getting called a simp. But I ultimately think it's us failing, bro. We either gonna have to figure out a way to be more protective with our seed, or stay in the lives with these women and make that shit work somehow. I don't know if we need a leadership class where we teach people how to deal with cantankerous women and get them together. I don't know. It might be some herbs you could take to make your semen more like that drug that the yeah, like the them animals that they burrow inside of another organism and make them do what they want. It might be some herbs that can make your semen do that to women, because y'all gonna have to figure this shit out and get them to act right, because this fatherless home shit ain't cool, man. You got to figure that shit out.
Well, but the thing about it is, and I get that, because we can't do anything about people who didn't have fathers because they're here now.
Yeah.
But what my thing is, every other race of people can do it except for us.
So here's my point of contention with that, right? If we have men that were raised in a fatherless home who are still able to maneuver their way and learn the skill set to make a successful marriage happen, the question should be, how can we replicate that and not turn around and be like, because fathers weren't in the home, we now have this problem. I understand the concept of exceptions to the rule, but in order to make it the norm, there needs to be a formula that's applied to your average person. Like, if we're really solution-based, we can't keep going back to the problem and be like, well, this is the problem, or this is the problem. When do we get to the point of fixing it, right? Mm-hmm. To the point where, like, I've now seen statistics of the generation that comes after us who've just, like, stopped engaging in sex. The boys and the girls alike. The boys in the generation after us, we're seeing the highest number of virgin boys that has ever existed since recording this stuff, right? There has to be a way where we can replicate these systems to make successful marriages, regardless of what's happened to get us here. There has to be a pendulum effect where we now move to the other side. We've seen what failure looks like. We're living through what failure looks like. How do we find the solution to switch it over?
I got a question for you, and that's that. Because I seen something similar, and this may be the same information, but it was on a Black Pill content site, and they were saying that the top 16% of men, because the women still were sexually active, but the young men were at a higher rate. So what it seemed like we was moving into is non-consensual polygamy for these young men, like the men who are popping on IG and who got all the juice, got all the women,
the juice.
Got all the juice and berries, the juices and berries. They got it all.
You got
the so. I think I've seen what you
referencing.
Think what you're talking about.
Okay.
The age demographic in which, like, people are just opting out of sex are, like, in their late teens to early 20s.
Okay.
Right. They're seeing the mess that we're all in, or saying, I don't want none of this. I don't want to have to deal with any of this craziness. I don't want to have the boys and girls alike. Because here's the one thing is, we can have that conversation about the girls who are a little bit closer to our age categories still having sex with that small percentage of men. But what's the thing that men are advocating for? Get you a younger woman. The same way that, like, a lot of these what do you call it, the overseas dudes, the passport bros, they're talking about, go overseas and get you a wife. They're engaging in sex culture. A lot of these people are not getting married. When we're advocating for age gap dating, we're still advocating for dating. We're not advocating for marriage, and so we're recreating the problem. It seems to be that the generation that should be sexually active around this point are saying, listen, y'all are a whole mess over there. I want nothing to do with it. Right. And maybe the pendulum will swing with them, But how do we help that along in a healthy way?
Oh, so I
go ahead, Tab.
So Marcus, I agree with you, but we need women's help. I think this all changed. I think it really started to go downhill when there stopped being a village, a community, and I think that's the advantage that many of the other ethnicities have over us, is because in many cultures, even if there isn't a man present can actually check and correct children. If I tried to do that with anybody in the neighborhood, I'm gonna have folks beating down my door and I'm gonna have to shoot somebody. If you try to correct a black woman's kid and it's not your kid, you're gonna run into problems. You're gonna run into big problems. There is no more village. And so I said all of that to say, when the fatherless, when the single mother homes went up, the village went down, and you have women trying to raise both boys and girls. You got jaded women trying to raise boys and girls. And I think thusly the result of that is more masculine females and more effeminate boys. We need to get back to being able and being okay with saying, with somebody else saying, "Hey, yo, little man, you ain't moving right." But we're not there. We don't do that shit anymore because women won't allow it. Y'all really won't allow that shit. And I'm not talking about you ladies on the panel, because I don't know how you operate in your own sphere. I'm just talking about as a whole, as a community. We can't do it. Even as a coach, even as a freaking high school coach, if I try to correct a young man up there, their mom is up there at the very next practice to have that conversation and say, "Hey, next time send him to me." Why, ma'am? I think I handled it just fine, thank you. But you allowed your son to come run and cry to you. That's part of the feminine part. Mm-hmm. And now you're coming up to try to handle that. This shit is crazy.
I think the other part to that, AP, as well, is the society as a whole has changed, because there are, like my husband's example, he grew up without his father, but he's still a man. His mother never, once they got divorced, his mother never dated anybody else, because for her, she was like, I don't want him to ever see me with another man. So she was putting that on hold or whatever. So she never dated. So she raised him. His father wasn't in his life. So he was raised without his father since he was 8. So my thing is that our fathers, very important. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're not only important, they're necessary. However, if you're raised in a, home by a single mom, I think the difference with him being raised at that time by a single mom versus being raised by a single mom now is that the society values were different then. So even though she was a divorcee, the community itself, they still all shared the same values in regards to family and what's being important and how to raise your kids and all of that. The difference now is that those same values are no longer there. We value something totally different. And so I think that's a result of that. And so that's why I think men are, in this day and age, are struggling to be men, because the value system has changed about what being a man is.
Okay. Let me jump in here. I mean, I think everybody's making good points, but let's just be real about why men aren't men, aside from them being raised by women. you get demonized. Masculinity is straight up demonized.
Oof.
Okay, the normal behaviors of a masculine man are so demonized that women think it's aggression when they just don't know what an actual masculine man looks like. Women misinterpret the behaviors and characteristics of a masculine man. Most women in society, and the women that are doing that were taught to do so, right? They only, I think I said it in the chat earlier or in the group chat earlier, women romanticize what they believe a good man is. Only men determine what good men are, but somehow women will always say strong and humble, docile and strong. Like, excuse me? None of that is how we describe each other or the men that we as men look up to. Now, let me make my claim for why I believe women are unhappy. And y'all ready for this? It has absolutely nothing to do with men. Not really, anyway. Women are unhappy because y'all bought a lie you can't return. Women leave every type of man there is. That's how I know it has nothing to do with men. A woman now in today's society will leave a good man. She will leave a stay-at-home dad. She will leave the CEO of a corporation. She will leave a man who cooks. She will leave. There is every type of man that a woman talks about on YouTube streets. She will leave him. So that's why I said the problem is not men, not necessarily anyway. Women are realizing that their mothers and their mentors failed them. The way that most women have modeled their life is screwed up. And the way you modeled it is after a man. That's what women have been chasing. They have been chasing the accolades and the life setup of men. That is why you covet work and career so much, because you thought that's what men valued. I think women love to see us back in the day, or love to see their fathers shooting the shit with other men over a cold beer, and they say, I'd love to have that same thing going on for me. And women in mass have tried to replicate that, but it's not the same thing. And the reason why, and this is my last point and I'll shut up, women misunderstand till this day why men do what we do. You thought we got fulfillment and happiness out of work. We get fulfillment and happiness from what that job allows us to do, which is take care of what we actually love. We go to that job and sweat it out. There are men who work jobs they don't even like for 30 years straight because it gave them a way to take care of their kids, their wife, and whatever else situation. Gave them a way to take care of their family. That is what actually brings men fulfillment. So when women go out in the world and try to replicate that and think they can actually acquire real happiness from a job, that is why most women are unhappy. Because they ask them how they want to set up their life. I got to go to school. I got to be an educated woman. Whoop-de-whoop. The average career span of a female corporate lawyer is 5 years. They never wanted to be lawyers in the first damn place. Right?
I concede all my points to you.
So I don't think I've ever disagreed with Trigger Mike more. And it's interesting because there's usually at least
going on tonight.
I know. Listen, there's usually Trigger Mike.
We're not gonna be able to tear this one down, though. That was
but here's the thing, right? To your point about all these types of men being left, to the same respect, there are a multitude of women. Right? Not all women are created equal. Not all women require the same things. Not all women move with the same level of respect and femininity, right? The fact that all of these types of men are being left, that is not a testament to women in general, because women are also not a monolith the way that men are not a monolith. What that signals to me is that there's a lack of education around choosing a suitable partner. We're picking people we like because it feels good and we got the fuzzies and we're in the honeymoon stage. We're not looking at longevity. I think a lot of men's ability to have foresight has been significantly reduced. Flashy vagina has now taken over, where this society of over-sexualization is impairing judgment on what marriage is supposed to look like. In the past, marriage has been you pick the woman who's going to be able to raise your kids, who's going to be the model for your children, and your side piece was the woman with flashy vagina. Now we're marrying the flashy vagina, expecting her to move with the same caliber as the woman who isn't like that. We're picking women who aren't suitable for marriage, and then other women who move cantankerous like that are now holding her as a standard of saying like, well, she gets married, so I shouldn't have to adjust either. We've created this problem, right? To the point of the demonization of masculinity. I think the majority of women truly respect and admire masculinity. The problem is there's a lot of men who don't understand what masculinity truly looks like and are replicating it in the things that they associate as masculinity. And when women call that out, instead of men saying, yes, you're right, this gender war gets reinforced where no, you just don't understand men. The majority of the men on this panel would vehemently disagree with the men who are pretending to be masculine. This toxic masculinity is not real masculinity. It's really feminine behavior with a whole lot of bravado that is not conducive to relationship, to community, to marriage. The majority of women are able to recognize that, but now because like it's cool for women and men to fight over situations, we don't want to acknowledge that. We gloss over that. Right?
Hell yeah, Nas. Go ahead, girl. Keep going.
That's really
No, go ahead.
Toxic masculinity is not this demonization. Feminism demonized masculinity. That didn't come from women of color.
But it is who is currently
hang on, give me a second, right? Because here's the thing, right? A couple of weeks ago when we were on, I'd asked Shan a question, and she answered it exactly the way I knew she would, because the majority of women move like that. When a man asserts his dominance in a way that is still respectful, in a way that is still stoic, women turn around and instead of being appalled and beating their chest, be like, oh, okay, let me go sit in my poser. Let me just all of a sudden cave. When women test
cooking and everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Women will immediately be like, oh, okay. Sorry, babe.
Lingerie.
It is very consensual, right? Women know how to behave. The problem is we're giving way too much social credit to women who don't move like that they get pedestalized. They get pedestalized by men because now they got all this flesh showing, and we know how men are weak to that. And then women see that and say, oh, she has the currency that I'm looking for, right? It doesn't have any. The other thing, right? We talked about, I saw in the chat about somebody talking about women needs to stop looking at a man's pockets. You know who pocket watches more than women is other men. Mm-hmm. Don't get married until you reach a certain point. You know, you can't sustain a family until you reach a certain point. You know, you shouldn't do this. You can only get women if you reach a certain level. The whole conversation about a high value man. And you know how I know that women are not on that? Pookies and Ray Rays would not get as much flack as they do if women were truly pocket watching the way men accuse them. They wouldn't. Right? Like, I think we need to have a way more like grounded conversation in what's actually happening out there than some of these talking points, because we will never get into a solution if we keep reiterating the same points. I have never more like disagreed with Trigger Mike more, and I'm so sorry I came so hard at you, but like I know you could do better than this.
I'm still right.
Well,
actually, y'all made some very similar points, actually. But
I was gonna say I don't really see your disagreement in total, but we can break that down, because I don't even think what I'm saying is necessarily YouTube talking points. What I think is actually going on, and this is for people who are looking for marriage. I think when you cross a threshold after the age of 35 for a woman, and this is the worst part. I think one of the bits of information that I think I'm collecting now is I think a lot of women are failing each other. That's why I use the term mentors. Their mothers and their mentors are failing them. In an effort to stave off embarrassment, women aren't being honest about where they believe they went wrong. right? Because this is one thing that men do without, we do it easily. The OG, you walk up to somebody, you ask him for some advice, whether you ask or not, they're going to drop knowledge on you, say, this is what I did. This is how it screwed me up. If your dumb ass want the same thing to happen to you, do that. But you should take this road instead. We don't really see women doing that anywhere in their 30s. So now I see women who are 40 and up saying, all right, well, this is where I went wrong. And I'm looking at their life circumstances. Most of them have spent their life in school, are tired of whatever job they have, no matter if it's high paying, low paying, or whatever, and they're ready for a change. And they're asking themselves, either they have one kid or no kids at all. They're saying, I made a mistake somewhere. And I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with men at large. It's about the mistakes they all made modeling their life after the way men do. I believe that.
Okay. I don't think that women at large have an issue with toxic masculinity or masculinity in general. Because to me, I think what women have an issue with is the idea that they can control it. Just like what women want as far as a man that can protect you, that same brother that has the strength to protect you, that same energy can be used against us, against you. Oftentimes, the reason why women seem to have a lack of respect for masculinity in general is because they can pick and choose how they choose to use it. Like, the reason why a lot of women like their jobs and their careers and their money and their families as they are is because they can pick and choose when they can bring that man in. So if they need something to get fixed, they can call a brother to come in and do the masculine thing. They can come in, and if they need protection, they can call somebody in to come in the house and be like, hey, listen, I need help with this. So all the things that women have grown accustomed to, they have some level of control. Sometimes when men get labeled as toxically masculine is when they can't control this guy, or you think that this guy doesn't have control over his emotions, right? Not realizing that even a good man is also has some issues. He also has some bad qualities with him to some degree. Even in the best men that you love and you respect, and you think he's Trigger Mike. If you think Trigger Mike is that dude, right? Trigger Mike also got some issues. He got some things that he deals with and some things that he's been through and has some other things going on. But you only focus on the benefits of Trigger Mike more so than the negatives of Trigger Mike. So the simple fact of the matter is, if you're a woman that desires control and feel like you know better and that you have all the answers and that you're going to do all these things, having a guy like Trigger Mike might be problematic to you because you think that you know better and your experiences seem to confirm that. However, when you start going through life long term, you realize the benefit of having a Trigger Mike or a brother that actually does continue to hold masculine frame and do all of these things that women claim they got an issue with, and they claim that sometimes it's toxic. But the simple fact of the matter is I believe, to go back to the overall point, the only way that men and women can continue to move forward in the long run is if we find something to agree on. Because how can two walk together unless they agree? The reason why we're bickering left and right is because we say that this is the problem and the women said this is the problem. The thing is we need to understand that unless we come together, society continues to die. Nobody will get replicated. Nothing will get built. No, because here's the crazy thing. Like the blue collar guy that's building your house, right? He is perfectly fine living by himself for a long period of time. However, if he has a woman, right, his quality of life and his ability to survive actually increases, because most men are designed to just work until they die. But women, a smart woman will notice, hey, listen, I understand that you're doing this thing for us, but if you do it this way, you might actually not have to endure some of the pain that you're feeling. So I think that what I was taught, because I was taught multiple different ways, that a husband is a skillful manager of the household, right? And that he has the grace to lead, right? But I think that women were given something that's different than men. They have been given some special spiritual wisdom, right? That helps challenge and humbles men to some degree. Because if we had all of the grace to lead and all of the wisdom, we would have no need for women. And I think with the balance between men and women, as far as what they were innately given by God, in my opinion, we're only going to be able to continue to move forward if we're able to work together in some form of fashion.
Can I
I don't want to work together.
I
want
something
problems
quick,
always.
Just something quick. I wanna kind of point out, and then I'm gonna fade back. HD, you said that there are women that would actually have problem with the way Trigger Mike manages his home. I don't think so. Like, I honestly believe someone like Trigger Mike and Marcus, and as I get to learn you as well, they're not going to really have a problem. Most women don't have a problem falling in line when you stand firm on who you are, what you believe, and you do the right things. I simply that's where my point of contention with what you said was, because most women, when they see real masculine men, not the baby, what you doing? Not that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a real masculine man. They will fall in line. And Miss Taken is an example of that. If you don't mind me using you as an example of that real quick. But that's where I disagree with you, because I truly believe the hardest of women and the softest of women and everything in between will fall in line, because they will recognize, like, yo, this is a quote unquote real man. And I think that's just kind of the way they command their families. And I don't think that most women will see that as toxic. Now, here's the deal. People like you, Marcus, Trigger Mike, y'all aren't going to just settle for anything. When y'all see the bullshit, y'all gonna keep it moving. Like, nah, baby, thank you, I'm good. That's where the more of us men need to move that way. Like, nah, baby, I'm good. I don't think they're really, like, yeah, they'll glance at that fat ass. Yeah, they'll glance at those titties that's out in front of their face. They ain't chasing that shit. Y'all ain't chasing that shit.
Listen,
and you're not letting it move you off your square.
I agree with you 100%, but that's why I specifically said a woman that has an illusion of control and a woman that's willing to sit there and say, hey, listen, I want control and I want this when I want to. I said that type of woman would be the problem. Will have a problem with Trigger Mike.
I still don't think so.
People got a problem with me again. I'm sorry.
I still don't think so, because once that illusion is no longer an illusion and they actually see that this man makes their life better, those delusional women will fall in line.
You're doing the Marcus thing, bro. You're doing the Marcus thing. You know why I implore people not to all the way listen, because Marcus is not wrong, but you got to remember who's giving you the information. When Marcus ass niggas do this thing, it actually irks my nerves, because Marcus is 6'8", right? When the way he can get a woman to respond to him is in the 99th percentile. You see what I'm saying?
That's not true.
When he talks in such a, I mean, women just do what the fuck I had. It's an oversimplification. He's literally leaving out the fact that 90% of other men will not get that response from a woman automatically.
Hang on one second. Mistaken and Shan, please admit she critiqued Cap because I'm being hot. Trigger Mike, you were the person at the beginning of this stream talking about that you could do it too. How tall are you?
No, I'm 6 feet tall. This is actually my actual point. Marcus is tall as fuck. I was raised to be a husband and raised in a family where this is the way men behave to get these behaviors from women, and this is your job. So that's what I'm saying. One person taught, and he was probably taught too, but either way, he casts a shadow over most people, so they just gonna comply with whatever the fuck he says. Now, this is what is the issue. I'm trying to be objective here. This is the issue for every other man. It is not just the man. There used to also be other things that kept women in line, and I think somebody said it already. Tap, you already said the village, and somebody already said similar values and morals. Remember, people used to be attached to religion. That religion did have to work. when we talk about values. So even if the man wasn't so much up to par in the masculinity front, a woman was following the guidelines of the religion as to how she related to her man. She did not disrespect her man, not because he was so masculine. She did not disrespect him because the religion said so, because her village would get on her for doing so in public, right? So that's why I'm saying it's not just the fact that a man has to be who he is. There used to be other things in place to keep women in line. So now what we're really seeing is that when a woman feels equal to you in certain ways, she wants to challenge you, even though you're a masculine man, right? I make 100K, you make 100K. I say this not going down, you be like, well, I think it should go. No, you see what I'm saying? I think that's more so what's happening in today's society, because men are having to deal with women who are unruly because they're spiritually not grounded in anything. Spiritually or culturally not grounded. Yeah.
That's my pushback on that, right?
Marcus is not your height, by the way. It's actually, see, I've met Marcus. It's actually the way he treats people. The way he talks to people.
And he tall as fuck. Like he can treat people well.
It ain't just the one thing. It ain't just the one thing, because I personally, shit, in my mind, like if it got down, I'm gonna bust his head open. But it was the way he moved, the way he talked to people. You know what I'm saying? It was who he is. I don't think it has anything to do with his height. Like, you're 6 foot, like you said, it's learned, and you think it's his height. It's not. It's the way you move as men that get women to cooperate. Period.
Agreed.
So to build, hold on, Trigger Mike. Let me just stack on AP point, because I 100,000% agree with him. 1 million. I appreciate it, bro. And this is the thing. So what that height or some other intangibles may do, or being attractive, may allow me to get a woman that I specifically like equate to attractive wise. But I think all men can do it at the level of women that they attract, right? Respect and all these other things is what the differentiator is. And what we see is men are getting women that they may find more attractive than themselves, or they may feel that they're outscoring, or they just don't know how to set those parameters. And that has nothing to do with the intangibles that I have. It has everything to do with the individual man and how he presents himself for the woman that he is dealing with. Because let's say I'm ugly or whatever, and I got a 4. I can get the same response as a guy that's good looking, tall, and have all these things
from a 4.
At the level at that same level. So the only thing that my extras do may be I might be able to date a woman on a point scale that may be higher, but I think that universally what I'm saying works across the board at whatever level of person that you attract.
And it is not even just a person, a woman that's dealing with you in relationship. Is women in general around you. Like, when y'all know I had went to go renew my vows, but just watching how other women that was in our circle responded to my husband when he said move as well. Like, everybody was moving. And it was the same thing with, one of the other, couples, fiance. It was the same thing. It's about how you command respect.
Absolutely.
And that will
I don't disagree
on
with
any
of that.
woman that's around you.
But what I'm saying is that in general, I think we don't want to oversimplify it, because we won't accurately address the problem. So are we saying that if more masculine men who are family oriented held a boot camp for a majority of black men, let's say in the black community, and we did it military style, to where we beat all of the simp behavior, the sucker behavior out, made these men men who not only knew how to command respect, but speak respectfully, give respect to a woman. Therefore, it's genuine and all of that. And then we brought most of the black women in the black community who are marriageable to them. Are you saying that these women would comply with these men in the home?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Without question, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That they're equivalent is what I'm saying. So if you can't attract, I'm just using the point scale just for the sake of, if you can only attract women that are 5, a 9 may not. If she's not attracted to you, act that way. But you're equivalent. So you're 5 with a 5, or 5 with a 6, or a 6 with a 5. That will absolutely happen that way.
Yeah, let me tell you why. It's not a negative thing. It's not me trying to be funny. Let me tell you why I have this I really think the upbringing too much time has passed. I think if we catch somebody before the age of 10 years old, maybe at this point, maybe we can save them. I think for grown women, too much time has passed, because what I've seen now is women that are well put together, meaning they have the ability to comply with somebody that's paying them. Maybe that's pretty much it. They have to be extracting a benefit from that person to just do the bare minimum as far as compliance is concerned.
Well,
So,
but
so
yeah,
Sugar Mike, I got a perfect, and that, like, so I got like, where I'm from, it's an active area, right, on the crime scale. I got a lot of guys I know who get the respect that that men want to garner from women who don't have the money. Like, they might have just came home, did 10 years, came home, and they don't have nothing. They starting over with a factory job, and those women respect them and love them the same. But we move in a similar manner, right? We're respecting everybody and demanding respect without pushing the line on nobody for no reason. They violent, but they not ultra violent where they just attacking people. It's collected, like it's targeted if they need to, but they not just rah. They real cool, calm, and collected, and they just move in a way where you like, that man is gonna respect me, but I don't really want to try him because I think he's gonna get active on me. Those men without money, without height, without any of these other things, get that same level of interaction that I would get for my equivalent partner. I'll be watching that shit like, I wish I could, like, I might try and do that one day. And even some of the men that don't deserve it, that be real fuck ups, they be getting that same thing.
There's a bunch of
I think it can work in a cultural sense, meaning if those women grew up respecting those men because their daddies did those jobs too, I think it can work in that sense. But just the way, like dating and the way things work now, I think it cultivates a level of disrespect. That's why we have this hierarchy. If you don't make this, or you know what I mean, like I think that's what it is. But.
So I want to address this, right? Because I've had this conversation before, but not on a public platform. These standards that these women have, the 666, the high value man, however you want to state it, it doesn't matter, right? This came from a situation of like the conversation around there's no good men left, you know, dudes ain't ish, all of this stuff, right? That if I'm going to be with a man, then I'm going to get something out of it. But in a culture where most women are not married, the majority of women are in relationships where they're unhappy, the majority of women are in relationships where they're being cheated on, the real flex, the real benefit is a happy marriage. The majority of women will compromise all of their standards if a man can give them that. The issue is the amount of men that have that ability have now dwindled, right? So I think this idea of boot camp, I think you and Marcus need to get together and make this happen. I think y'all would just change the entire spectrum of the world, right? Because here's the thing, right? If rich men are being left, if tall men are being left, if short men are being left, if broke men are being left, you were saying, Trigger Mike, that all these different men are being left, right? There is, it's not about happiness. It's about like respectability. If we can come together and get men to be more firm, right? Be more masculine. And again, toxic masculinity is a totally different conversation. I mean, if we can bring masculinity back, I think we would bring marriage back. I think we would bring back the trend of more compliant women, of softer women. A lot of this hardness of education and career and all of this stuff is coming from a place of insecurity where there is not trust for a man to handle those situations, right? If we can bring back the men that are able to take control and to produce the things that they say they're going to do, I think we'd have a totally different landscape on what society looks like.
So I don't disagree. And then let me, I know MRM, let me just say this, and I'm going to pass it over to you. I don't disagree. I just think most of the women that are old enough to be married right now they can't benefit from that. They can't. I think that because you said they will compromise most of what they say their standards are for a happy marriage, but I think that's also the issue. Marriage either wasn't modeled for them or they haven't positioned themselves correctly to serve in a marriage. I do not think most women are the service type of woman. We've already created a culture for them to be selfish without any consequence. So I don't think a woman can turn the corner on that and say, well, I don't want to be selfish anymore. And this is a question I didn't get to ask on my show earlier, because it even has to do with sex. Do we believe that most women in our society now get pleasure from pleasing men? No, less than 10%. Those are the type of women that are wives, in my opinion. A woman that literally is happy because she pleased you. I haven't seen one in a very long time. And those are the ones that I'm saying will give up a part. Like, those are the women that will give it everything up, turn the corner to get married, to be in a happy marriage. And I think there are very few of them.
So here's the thing,
let
right?
me say this, Trigger Mike. That sounds real good, but good women are sometimes being played the most in dating game. Those good women, they're being played. They're not. It's no chase, like the fun part of it. They're not that woman. They're being played the most in the dating.
All right, let me just ask you, are they being played because of their own decisions in men, or are they making the right decisions, or they're being
they're
together
playing,
with men that are well vetted, and those men are playing them?
They're playing an honest game with dishonest people, and unfortunately, we have live in a society now where a lot of people are dishonest.
Yeah, but I also think women don't protect themselves from that well enough. So
I agree.
I've noticed the good woman getting messed over is usually because of her freedom of choice. We live in a society now where nobody wants to say it, but you want to see things get better for women on the marriage front, take away the ability to choose for themselves, or at least you know, and that's really what it is. Any man, if you be like, oh, you like me, oh, you want to have sex with me, well, shit, I'm going home. You can come to this barbecue and meet my daddy. Yeah, once we start doing that again, we'll have less of this heartbreak going around.
I agree. Let's let Modern Renaissance speak real fast, and you can go in.
Can you guys hear me pretty well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Shout out to everybody. I've been listening pretty much to the whole show the entire time and just trying to figure out when I was going to do the little double Dutch move to jump in. But yeah, it's been a lot of good points made tonight. And what really just pretty much impressed me to really jump on here is the solution that Trigger Mike was talking about. What's really interesting is that, and here in Illinois, we've been doing this for, I would say, we've probably been doing this for the past 15 some odd years, where literally our after school program is only ran by men, especially if they come from like a single parent home. Only men and certain men that we pick are involved in this. Now, there are women there to help out in certain aspects. Once girls start to get to a certain age, they go through certain changes, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as like getting a hold of the kids, we only work with ones between, like, let's just say the age is like, when they start like, let's say 6th grade on up to probably 24, 25 years old. And the reason being is because if you think about and you see who the system is targeting, those are the ones that we go after as well. So if they're trying to implement certain types of ideologies and narratives into the school system, those are kids, and that's the age that we go at, because they know that's when they're actually open. They can be actually impressed upon real easy. So the reason why I'm saying that is because we literally have things written out, and we have contracts, and we have a right to take care of business. I do not play around when it comes to kids. Like, we discipline and we whoop them. Some of y'all might agree with it, some of y'all may not, but we have 3 people in there along with a camera to make sure that we're correcting behaviors, because that's where it all starts at. If you can get rid of their behaviors, certain type of attitudes at an early age, and that will be something that you won't have to worry about later on down the road. And the reason why I'm saying is because our biggest push is the complete opposite of what we see out there. So a lot of things, and I'm just being honest with you guys, a lot of things that I hear in the internet streets and the world that we're teaching them, they don't see that. They don't see this modern woman that a lot of you speak about on the internet. One of the things we do, they don't have computers in their home, nor do they have phones, right? And the reason is because they can get on there and be easily influenced by a whole lot of this. And I'm not just saying, hey, because sometimes my mentees, I have them watch the Lapeef Network, and we use this to do actually a little rap session over to see what ideas they like, what ideas they didn't like, to see if there's certain people that actually consistently come on the Lapeef or on other platforms. Do these people stay consistent in what they talk about? Because the kids will judge that, because we're supposed to be here as being a representation and supposed to be coming up with solutions of what we have for them. But yet at the same time, they watch closely to see if people actually change, if they actually able to carry those out. So what I'm saying therefore is our biggest push and our biggest focus is about relationship before it's even about careers, period. Because that was the first thing that was formed anyway, was relationships. If you're a believer, the first thing God put together was Adam and Eve. He didn't sit there and say, well, you know, I want you to do this and have this, and she got to have all these standards. It was family first, and those things came afterwards, right? So when these kids grow up in this program, we really push these men. We teach them to be men. We teach them to be husbands. We teach them to be fathers, and that's the order we want them to go in. We teach the young girls to be young women. We teach them to be wives. We teach them to be mothers. Now, what's interesting about that is over the course of 15 years, we have a huge success rate with them. They're all, well, not all, but you know, the ones that actually decide to get married, they're still married. They became husbands. They became great wives. It works really well. But the thing is, it's not going to work if you don't get them at a young age. And it may seem like it's a bad thing to say. Certain people that are at a certain age right now, whose minds are made up, is going to become more of a, I think this, I think that. They're already set in their ways. It's kind of hard to change them if they're not trying to change. So I just do know that at a young age, that's the fertile point to get them right now and produce growth out of that. So I want to add that in there.
So you guys are basically the village that I was talking about earlier. Am I hearing that correct?
Yeah, we do not play around. I mean, guys, I'm talking to the point to where these mothers sign the contracts where we tell them, when we do this, if your child come home, Mr. Ty, I don't like him no more. Mom, don't you sit there and say, what do you do? He better know. You have to be, well, hey, you know.
Nas, do you not like kids getting whoopings or something?
I don't. I
was watching you like, you look like you were shaking in your seat like, oh,
no, I don't. I think it's so unnecessary, right? There are certain extremes where it might be required, but I think there's a lot of steps skipped before getting to that point. And here's the thing: I've stated this. I'm not a parent, but I am the oldest of 7 children, so I do have some experience parenting, right? With my youngest brother, there's 20 years between him and I. That child has more respect for me than the parents that did whoop him. I've never laid hands on him. He picks his repercussions. If he does not follow up on the things that he says, he already knows what the repercussion is because he's chosen it for himself. That kid has never disrespected me. He's never talked to me crazy. He's never not honored. He's never now in his teen years not honored his word when it comes to me. I've had more respect and success from him than my parents have, and they've laid hands. They've whooped him. Whooping, I think, are like, unless it's an extreme scenario where that child is incredibly combative, is like, listen,
but that's also, do you think he got whooped the least or not, didn't get whooped because he had 6 other siblings to help raise him? No 2 kids get the same parents, you know that. It's parental experience.
I understand that, right? Like, my parents were significantly older with him than they were with me. I'm the oldest, right? So like that we're at opposite ends of the spectrum. I understand that. But at the end of the day, as a fellow African, you know that the oldest child's responsibilities are not the same as the others, right?
Absolutely.
So yes, he didn't get as many whoopings as we did, but the respect level that I get between what the parents get from laying hands with him and the types of conversations we have about what is appropriate behavior, what isn't, choosing his repercussions, him reiterating to me how we got here when it's time for repercussions. His critical thinking skills are vastly more advanced than mine were at his age because of upbringing, right? So we jump to whoopings like it's still a life and death situation out here for most people, and we're not teaching we're raising sheep. When you're enforcing whoopings over real conversations, over like real consequences that are correlated to the problem that was caused in the first place, if you're not doing that, if you're not teaching them the thought process behind things, you're creating sheep instead of independent thinkers, instead of leaders.
Can I jump in real quick with Mike to that? You know, so what I want to say to that is, here's the thing, is that most people will do that, but then what I say is this: if you are spanking without no discipline or correction in there, then that's completely wrong, because all the child see is pain. But at the same time, I mean, I'm just telling y'all, you don't know this, but the AMA, we all know this that went through med school. Do you know that certain places that we had to do our residencies at, that these people who are considered to be mentally ill behavioral wise, do you know what they respond to really well? If they're trying to attack, you know what they respond to well? Pain. They respond to pain. They get it. They get that if they keep on trying to harm you or harm others, if they get inflicted with some pain, their brain lets them know, I can't continue to do this, because if I do, pain is inflicted. Now, it's not done to abuse them. It's done to correct an action, right? So again, I understand like some, like all of our kids don't get it because some of them don't require it, but there are some that do. And when it does happen, like I said, the fact that we actually got legislation to show that we can show this on camera, and we have 3 witnesses right there to show that we're not abusing the child. Now, all the ones that came out like, let's just say out of our 100 kids, and like 30 of them got this spanking, not one of them to this day will come up and say, I think that was abuse. They all say, thank you. That helped me. They helped shape my character. If this wouldn't have happened, it's got to correct. I know I would have done this. I know my mom couldn't do it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it all comes down to the kid. My 2 sons who are 21 and 19 years old right now, my youngest one, he got it more than the older one. The older one, I can look at him, give him a look, he'll start crying. The younger one, he needed some pain inflicted to get some understanding. So, I mean, I get it. Not everybody is the same. You know, I completely understand that. Some of the kids can be talked to.
Let me jump in.
Quick question before you jump in, right? So, modern Renaissance. Do you feel like the way that you handle these children is the exception to the rule, or what's happening in mass?
You said what's happening in
mass? The majority.
Are you talking about just parenting, period, or
no? I'm talking when you're coming to corporal punishment, right? The explanations behind it and all of that stuff. The way that you handle your children and the children that you're working with, right? Do you feel like that's the majority of people that move that way, or do you feel like that is the exception?
Oh, majority of people definitely don't move that way.
Okay. So that is why I don't advocate for it, because the majority of people are going to apply it in a way that's not productive.
Right. So that's why I say, you know, like right now, when I talked about the age of kids we get a hold of, that's the reason why, because even when it comes to like their own parents, there are some of those kids who, I mean, they're getting hit with all kind of crazy objects. And we like, okay, no, look, if this happens, you come and let us know. We're going to take care of and talk to them, whatever like that. But no, because some of the stuff is ridiculous. Like some people, you know, I'm just being real. There's some of them
I was gonna say
stitching cord.
I've been waiting.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
You
know you like skin. You gotta make room for yourself.
I'm doing the Enos finger. But what I can't remember who said it. Oh, I think it was you, Renaissance. Like, you know, no, I think you said maybe be harder, which I do agree, about changing behavior, you know, as you get older or what have you. That I can agree. But I also do believe, for the most part, that anybody's behavior can be shaped and changed, right? So I think I said this before, that I used to do ABA. So I was working with children with autism, but the same idea behind that, the same methods work just on anyone. The idea behind it is to shape and modify behavior, but the main thing that you have to do first is see what the function of that behavior is for. Find the underlying reason behind what that behavior function as, and then once you find that, then you are able to begin to shape and change, because you're only paying attention to the desired behavior that you want to see. And then there's consequences for the undesirable behavior. And I think everybody operates on that as human nature. Like you just said, even if people with the mental issues realize that their shape or change of behavior comes when the consequence is pain. And I gave my example earlier about my husband no longer providing me with the reinforcement for behaviors that I was able to get away with in previous relationships. Once he began to give me, you know, a consequence, or should I say reinforcement for the behavior he wanted to see, without even not even knowing, you know what I'm saying? So I do think, as a man, so getting back to the point where, you know, they're saying men don't know how to be men, things like that. One of the things is that men do know how to observe behavior and use that to gain access to women. Y'all are great at that. So my thing is, if it's used constructively, all of these women that y'all talking about, you can't say nothing to these women, like, you have to learn how to use that ability in a positive way to end up changing a behavior. And I think that that's where your masculinity, like the men who, like y'all would talk about Marcus or like when you say real masculine men, I think that's where that comes in. They have an ability to be able to see certain things, decide what the consequence for the unwanted behavior is going to be, that's going to be effective for the woman that they're with, and then reinforce the things that the woman do that pleases him, which will make her want to do it more. And I think that's the skill set that men need to develop in order to get the women that they say they want and would marry.
Okay, just two things I want to point out. Why would we care about changing their behavior when we're already getting what we want out of them? And the second part of that is I'm not gonna, like, I think we got hung up on the spanking piece of what MRM was talking about. Yo, what you're doing, bro, what y'all are doing, that's dope as hell.
Yeah.
That is dope. A person like me, when I was younger, I could have benefited from a group like that. Like, that to me is super dope. I just want to give you your flowers on that.
Appreciate it.
Let me just say this, because I don't want that every time we talk about corporal punishment, the conversation kind of gets derailed. And I'll tell y'all, like I think I told someone on my show, it hurts me more than it could ever hurt my kids to spank them. It hurts me more. And one thing I've noticed is that the reason why fathers are so necessary is because moms are predispositioned to not want to see their children hurt in any way, even if it's because of their own behavior. You see what I'm saying? So the second they see their child cry, the second they see their child scared of impending consequences, they're going to try to save them from it.
Even within the marriage.
Exact. So
even
it's like,
your own marriage.
It hurts me that I have to do this to you, because I've given you clear instructions time and time again. And usually around the time I'm going to spank is usually around the time they're going to hurt themselves if I don't teach this lesson right now. And being somebody who was in the military and somebody who went through a whole process in another way, pain helps the body remember. It is a tale as old as time. Pain helps the body to remember. And you're doing it, especially in their formative years, so you don't have to do it anymore. I do not want to see anybody wailing or swinging on a 14-year-old, because they should have learned by then. They should be helping correct the younger ones so they don't get those consequences, right? So it's not something that we take pleasure in. It's not something that we feel like we have to do. But I want you to look the countries, the cultures that have strict rules for administering corporal, like a culture, they have corporal punishment. Look at the behavior of those children versus America in the West, who doesn't believe in such a thing. In America in the West, we got the worst children that have ever walked the face of this earth.
Man, then to her point though, this is Nas. I think let's say this is Nas. To your point though, when you say that you get more respect out of that, to that particular one, and what you did and what you brought out is what piqued my interest when you said, because you talk with them and you do this with them. Is it possible that whoever the parent is, they just do that and then leave it at that? They don't talk to them like, what's causing this issue? Why did you do it? This is why you're in trouble. And that's why you get the respect, because you actually take time to understand what's going on.
So both parents do that. I think that's one part of it. The other part of it is that I don't believe in punishments that are not correlated to the transgression. So young children, for example, will write on walls. Your punishment is to then clean the walls, not just the wall that you sullied,
a natural consequence,
right? Like they have to be natural consequences. To give a consequence that's not correlated to the transgression doesn't instill logical thinking, right? And so it's not just the conversation about things, right? So that was when he was really young. As he started to grow and understand what natural consequences were, then it was, okay, if you do this behavior again, what is your punishment, right? And then he chooses from his understanding of what a natural consequence is. If I don't do my homework, I don't get to play video games during the week. He chooses that. So if he doesn't do his homework, the conversation's simple then. Did you do your homework? No. What's the consequence? Well, here's my video game console. Right?
See, this is why children are so bad, Enos. This is why children are so bad. Everything you said
hold on, Trick Mike. I was
is
waiting
supposed to work.
So Trick Mike, let me just get this thing out.
Yeah.
So I got 10, well, 1 in the halfway house friends that's either been in jail for like first degree or manslaughter, right? Almost every last one of us was spanked or beaten growing up, and that made it helped, I think, create ultra violence in us, where we look at a resolution to turn to violence for everything. My wife mother did not. I planned on spanking my kids. My wife mother told me she didn't have to spank any of them. She did something similar to the way I was talking about, to them and taught them and gave consequences based off that. I was able to take that from her, and I have not had to spank my girls. I got like young kids, and they please and thank you. Yes, they are well-mannered, well-behaved, and I have to punish them all the time, but I also got to talk them. I like the rationale right now with these kids is crazy. She heard me talking to them all the time. The rationale is crazy right now with the kids. Now, in extreme cases that may work, or it may create kids who become violent and figure out ways to get around the punishment because they're afraid, they don't want to accept none of the consequence. They could just get slicker. Like the lines of communication don't be opened up so they can come to you and know it to be fair and just. It was a study done about like the correlation to violent crimes and corporal punishment. It couldn't be directly tied because there are other mitigated factors that can be factored in. But one of the things they said was, I got to find a report. We did a stream on it a while back that said there was a direct correlation to that and kids having developmental problems.
Yeah. So I saw some of the same stuff, and you're right, it is a bit inconclusive. The reason why, well, it's actually all goes to what you're saying. The reason why there's a correlation between, or an assumed correlation between violent crime and corporal punishment is because the corporal punishment that gets demonized, which is beating, because spanking is not the same as beating, it's actually from the single motherhood epidemic. So, and those children come from single parent homes. So all of those kids got overwhooped by their mom because their mom was alone, right? And she didn't realize maybe you're not supposed to be spanking a 13-year-old boy and swinging on him, connecting upside his head. So that is the part where I said we need to distinguish this a bit different. And the bad part is that we can't always use the success stories to say spanking isn't necessary, because there are a few. But how do we raise a country? You see what I'm saying? How do we raise a society in general? And to E. Nas's point, because you are extremely logical, and I think this is what's great for people to develop alternatives. But when you're talking about children now, because I love what you said, the consequence of painting the. Oh, I'm sorry. My son did that. I think I told y'all that. He did that. And I couldn't even spank him because mom wasn't there. I was like, I'm going to rip your head off, so I'm not going to spank you. But yes, he helped me paint the wall. Now, what do you do when he does it a second time and a third time? So what we're looking at, like I said, is that usually when things will get you hurt out in the world, you have to inflict some level of pain, because what they were going to do, like when my son went and picked up, had a long enough arm to pick up a knife out of the knife block. Oh, no. You don't do this. You don't. Hell no. Took your hand, wham, because you cutting yourself, your hand open, will hurt a lot worse than this. Do you understand? To stay out of the kitchen now. Don't let me ever see you in here picking up a knife, and you don't come in the kitchen without an adult. That boy will not. That boy will step his toe on the kitchen line and turn back like, Daddy, look, let me turn my ass around. So, you see what I'm saying there?
So I don't disagree with you, right? I think in extreme scenarios like picking up a knife, running with scissors, running into the street, those are reasonable. Like inflicting some amount of pain, I think is reasonable at that point, right? In terms of like repetitive bad behavior where the consequences they're choosing, the natural consequences are not enough, you know what he would have to do? He would have to wall sit with his hands up. that still inflicts pain, but I don't have to lay hands on him. It's not a whooping, right? And so I think it's the idea of spankings and whoopings that, like, we've seen time and time again that they have very negative consequences. You have even it, because like I've been seeing the chat about, you know, keeping people out of the street, sure, but you also grow up to be a very emotionally dysregulated adult. You don't understand how to gather yourself. You don't understand how to ask for help. You don't understand how to correct behavior. You have a whole population, a whole generation of people who are filled with anxiety. They freeze situations.
Notice what generation that is, though?
The ones that got beaten. That's us.
No.
That's us. And we are the most medicated when it comes to anxiety and depression.
No.
The studies say otherwise.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. You know what the studies don't show? The studies don't give you an account of the ones that did get spanked and still doing well, and the ones who actually say like spankings help me. The studies only focus on one group, the ones who may have had some type of adverse effect, like the, you know, going into a depression, whatever like that, because the source of that depression never got asked, but they will say, but you did get spanked. Or now I'm not talking about the ones that now again, I want to make sure I'm making this clear. I'm not talking about somebody getting beat. That's completely ridiculous. We're talking about the typical thing. Like, okay, when you mentioned writing on the wall, that's definitely not something like that. That's like a no, don't do that. And here's the punishment. You got to clean it up. Oh, you knocked the trash can over. Not that. We're talking about a behavior that if that behavior continues on, this kid is going to end up being like this towards their mom or their dad, or you know, most likely their mom. The ones we deal with is usually they're all single mothers. What we're talking about is the ones that are already, they're 6 and 7 years old and they telling their mom, I don't do this. Shut up, mom. Oh, no, we're not doing that. No, absolutely not. You know, we're talking about correcting behaviors like that, not like the typical they mess something up or knock something over like that. We're talking about a legit attitude that if that continues on, this is about to be hell on earth type of child. You know, so, but no, I totally get what you're saying, because just like this is now, we got people just like you, the ladies that we do, like you would be, honestly, not saying it just because you weren't here, the way that you are and your logic, you would be one of the ones that we would trust, to where we say, okay, we can tell that the way she's acting right now, this is not one of the things we about to get on this young woman about. I think she might be coming into her womanhood a little bit. So we need to get one of the ladies come in here and talk, see what's going on, X, Y, and Z. So I just want to make that clear that we're not just doing it because the kids are so-called being bad. It's something that's going to be legit.
I think in our community, the Black community.
Dang.
Oh, look at God. Look at God.
Hey, can I ask a quick question? Can I ask a quick question? I have a few questions. Question number one. I think from us men, I think we have already alluded to this, but I think that the way that you deal with men, you could kind of like deal with them more physically than you can with most women. And I think that's the reason why we seem to want to respond favorably to.
How's the echo?
Is it? I mean, excuse me.
Y'all hear feedback a little bit?
Not anymore.
Okay. But yeah, it seems like us men, we're used to receiving some sort of physical repercussions to our actions, so we see the benefit of it for us. But it seems like, do we think that women and men, that physical punishment yields more benefit on the man's side than it does on the woman's side?
I'm gonna be honest. I have I've done things like pinch my kids maybe, and maybe spank my son maybe, but that was when they were maybe 4, and that was because they had to understand what they were doing would cause pain. I have like pinch. I don't understand. The answer to the entire riddle is to get men in the home. Number one, that's the answer to the riddle. Marcus, you okay? You sweating like a dog, bro.
You took the man. Hey, I was get some water, Marcus. Man, I hope this conversation ain't triggering nothing. You know, you did. I'm teasing, but no. What I was going to say to you guys as well, and this not to like downgrade anything that the ladies do. But you do.
I didn't. By the way, the chat think I dropped you down. Tell them about it.
I
as
think
kids are
Mike
growing up.
pressed the thing and kicked me out, but
I did not. You.
But what I
didn't
was
do it.
going to say is, I think in our community, it's been a tradition or culture, whatever you want to call it, to spank first. And I think we do need to develop other ways of correcting behavior, but I'm not opposed to spanking either. But I do think it should be, like Inai said, a natural progression. Like that doesn't need to be the first thing that we do. The other thing is that spanking doesn't always work for all kids. So that's another reason why you need to find other forms of discipline. And I was one of those children that spanking didn't work for me. You know, it may have when I was younger, but as I got older into my teens, I'm eating that. I'm gonna take it. I'd rather have the spanking because that's gonna be overdone with and I could go on about my business versus having a punishment. I was a person that I love going outside. Even to this day, like my husband called it, I'd be staying in the streets, but I don't be doing that. I'd be at shopping. But I just don't like being in the house. I like being out and about. So spank me. Yes, go ahead and spank me. So then that's my punishment. Then I can go and do what I want to do after that. I could still, you know, later on go outside or whatever. But once I'll say my dad more so, realized my form was to punish me by making me stay inside as opposed to the spanking not working anymore. That's when he ended up changing up his discipline style because the making me stay inside held more weight than the spanking. So I think it's all about trying to figure out what is the carrot that's going to work for each child because everybody is different. And I think that is the key.
Now that part I 100% agree with. And I think because let me I'm the eldest. I got my ass whooped. Like I got my ass torn out the frame. It was actually kind of terrible to see how much my two youngers, my sister kind of got it too, but my two younger siblings, I was like, oh, y'all just don't believe in this anymore. But once again, they had me to basically say, don't do this, don't do that. You might want to, you know, so, but I also think it is important for parents to realize you're actually making them fear the lash so you don't have to do it. That's really what it's supposed to lead up into. And then if you are spanking kids to the point where you realize you're doing it excessively because their behavior isn't getting better, you absolutely need to be going to alternative methods. Now, I do absolutely think it's bad parenting because I think I saw somebody say it in the chat. We might want to consider that because of the conditions in the Black community, a lot of these people are spanked, most notably moms, because they have custody, are spanking the kids out of pure anger. And then pure anger, and then if you have custody of a son, man, I got a 4-year-old boy jumping his ass up and down. When I listen to him, it's weird how he will listen to the sound of my voice, but be tap dancing on his mama head. So I can only imagine if I wasn't here, what she would think the natural punishment for him would be. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's why we might have such a negative, because I want to make this point. No matter, not too many, especially guys that came from 2-parent households now. Any man, I don't think I've seen too many of them say, I don't understand why my dad spanked me or whooped me or whatever we're calling it. And I know why it was necessary. Men don't have problems with their dad because of what he did. Literally turned me into who I am. It's usually when the dad is absent or an alcoholic or something, we get into the extreme examples of what.
Because as a child, they can tell if you're doing that out of spite, out of anger, or if you actually doing that out of love. And that's why I say, like, what we got going on right now, because a lot of the ladies that we deal with, they are dealing with anger. And that's why we tell them when that happens, I know you want to snatch Isaiah and you want to, but have them come to us, bring them to us. And naturally, it's not that we try to do this, but I mean, as kids, I mean, everybody will answer this. If you had your father in the home, or even if you had any type of male influence, if you ask them while growing up, them kids know I can run my mom over. They get to about 11, 12, 13 years old. They about the same height. They know I can run mama over. Some of them I only do it because I'm just doing a little bit out of respect for my mom. But for some other reason, just even men presence or hearing a man's voice, that right there has a natural thing in their mind and their subconscious to say that represents authority. The deep voice. Us coming in there, we don't sit there and try to compromise. We getting right to the point. We're strict. We're more assertive. And so they fear that. And when I say fear, people thinking like, oh, they shaking in their boots. No, we're not talking about like that. But it's the fact that naturally as kids, you can have a room full of kids. And if they're out of control and there's a woman in there, hey, guys, and for some reason, the man coming, why?
Eyes wide open.
You see what I'm saying?
I will say that all of the guys that I was seeing was locked up for those offenses was single mother raised or ward of the state. So it wasn't like it was 2-parent households.
Yeah, and if you ever talk to any of them, they're like some of the ones that we get some that they've been out of jail for years and they're trying to get their life around, so they want to come in and rap to some of the kids that might be considered at risk, and they'll say exactly the same thing. Like they knew that their mom then was not doing that to them in a right way. They're like, my mom was just mad. She was teed off, with just her, and she would always talk about your daddy ain't this. And I felt that whenever she did this to me, she was literally beating me as if she wanted to do that to him. They feel it coming off of them versus them getting in trouble and then the mother saying, this is why you got in trouble and this is what's going to happen. And you need to understand that they don't do that. They just boom, 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 boom. They go in your room and sit down and shut the F up. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
But I also think we
Asians beat their kids, by the
way. At some point, this is another reason why I think we need to start early with having a bag full of, disciplinary measures or what have you, and talking to your kids as well. Because when you get to a certain point, even as a father and a son, it's going to get to a point where the child is no longer scared of being spanked. Mm-hmm. Right? Like my dad, he's 6'8". When I was growing, 6'8". He's tall. It got to a point where I did not fear him at all. And so once I got to that point, that consequence didn't matter, right? It didn't matter at all. And I've seen too, where if you start early young with building a relationship with your children, parenting them, all of those kind of things, the spankings will come less frequently, right? Mm-hmm. But is a transition between fearing your father and respecting your father.
Now, Mistaken, I got a question for you real quick. I'm not gonna lie. Mistaken, can I ask you something? Whenever you did get older, you knew spankings weren't gonna work no more. Was it something in the back of your head that had you feel like, oh my God, I know this is gonna make my dad mad though? Did you have like that type of sensation of, God, I know my dad gonna be mad over this, or he gonna be upset over this? Did that bother you?
Being totally transparent, no. Me and my dad did not get along when I was younger.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. That
very toxic.
Let me say this though. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely fear. It just may not be fear in the way we think about it. I feared disappointing my dad.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. In my situation, I lost respect for my dad. So the lack of respect, I also didn't have fear. I didn't respect him or fear him.
I've been so consistent in my children's lives, and they are 4 and 5. My daughter turns 6 in a few days. That they now at this young age they fear disappointing me. My daughter got a 93. Now, and my wife was like, "Good job." I said, "Where that 100 at?" And her head went down. And was like, "I'll just playing." But I want that goddamn 100. You see what I'm saying? So they fear disappointing me. That is what I was working up to with all of this. Naturally, we're supposed to get to a point. I think I heard a guy say it on Instagram. I don't agree with the friend part where your parent is supposed to be your friend, but I think I know what they're trying to say. But the part that I do love is that you're supposed to transition into your child's coach. Mm. And what's so interesting about that coaching role is any of us that ever played sports know that whether they put their hands on you or not, coaches beat the hell out of you to get that compliance so they can coach you properly. Okay? So I will rather get smacked in the face than do some suicides.
Or some burpees, man.
Or Navy SEAL burpees, or you smack me. Smack
That's
me, petty
exactly
officer.
why you need to do those
But what I
instead of
was
getting
going to
spanked.
say, what I was going to finish is that although that relationship with my father was the way that it was, total opposite with my grandfather.
Yeah.
I remember I got spanked one time by my grandfather for like acting up in church, like playing around with my cousins in church. I was like one of the that I will never forget that, one of the only grandkids that ever got spanked by him, because he didn't spank. That spanking didn't even hurt, but that was the worst spanking I ever got in my life because of what you said. The disappointment, the fact that I even got him to that point that he had to give me the consequence of spanking. And so it is all about the approach in the way that you parent. He didn't say much, but when he spoke, you better listen, right? It was that kind of aura that he had in terms of his manhood. So the disappointment that I felt because I disappointed him, that he had to spank me, crushed me.
Thank you.
It crushed me. And so that's why I say, when as you want to move out of, I think the fearing part works when kids are young.
Right.
You want to pair a lot of that with the love, the support, reinforcement, natural consequences, all of those things, because you want that to transition into respect. Because there will always get a point in time, even as a man, and you have a male child, that he can F you up, in terms of a physical aspect of it. But if he respects you, that wouldn't even be a thought that crosses his mind. And so I've watched that. Like my brother, he's 6'11". He was at an age that he could put it on.
Nobody beating his ass.
Right. To put it on my dad. But
let's talk about this, son. Let's talk about this.
Because of the way we were raised, that is not something that he would ever consider doing. So that's why you want to make sure that you pair love, consequence, all of those things, so that you can maintain respect from your children.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that the mentees, that's why I got them in on this tonight. Some of my older ones, they're watching this, because one of them just sent me a text, and what you just got done saying, it was like, Mr. Ty, remember that time whenever hold on. He said, remember that time I got smart with the teacher, and when you came to the school, all you did was walk in the room and looked at me, and I bust out crying, and you said, why are you crying? And I told you that I was only crying because I knew that I failed you. And that right there is like, yes, I did my job. She cried because she knew when I showed up. I won't come there, girl. I came there like, Tiffany. And she just bust out crying because she just was hurt that she failed me. I love that. This is what we had since she was, I think Tiffany, we had her since she was 7, and now she's actually, she's married, got 3 kids, and husband owns a construction company. And I love
MRM. Let me add to that, bro, because personal, real quick. My wife didn't grow up with her father. He was like a victim of a crack epidemic and all of that. So of course you can see him now. He's a completely changed man, pastor and all of that. So he came into the picture a little later, when she was about 10 years old. But growing up, she didn't have him, in the house with her. So I don't think she understood a lot of the instincts that men have and what men mean to the family in general. So when we got married, my wife actually had a talk with me, because my daughter had said that to her last year, from something that she had gotten in pre-K. And she said she's crying hysterically. And she put me off in the corner and said, I need you to take it a little easier on her. And I said, what do you mean? She said she was crying, not because of the lady giving her whatever little demerits for her behavior and talking too much. She said, but daddy's gonna be mad at me. And that's all she said. She said, she just kept repeating it and crying. And I looked at her like, are you crazy? I was like, I got her. This is what I've been waiting for. That fear of disappointing me that is my chance to keep her on the straight and freaking narrow for the entirety of my life. And it's taking that type of watch, like, oh, my wife is like, oh, this is how it's supposed to work. Everything she does, every decision she makes, she weighs it against whether I will approve of it or not. that is mighty in the life of any child. So
Okay, before we get to the super chats, I just want to make a quick correction. One thing that we coach, I'm talking about coaches. One thing we don't really do now is we don't run for punishment, because we try to sell the point that the running and calisthenics is actually good for you, and it shouldn't be used as a punishment. Now there are other ways to punish the kids, but you don't typically do it with exercise. I'm talking on a high school level, with exercise and conditioning. That's not the way you do
I'm
it.
curious. What do you do? Because that's the old school way. My ass ran.
So, one method is basically you don't. For us, we coach football, right? So we'll go a whole practice without touching a football.
Oh, okay.
They want to touch a football. That's what they want to do. Nope, you don't get to touch football today. We're gonna actually sit in a classroom and watch film and go over everybody's teeniest mistakes so that we can clean them up for tomorrow.
Yep.
So you just take away what it is that they want.
AP, your mic is acting up.
Kind of going in and out.
Yeah, and you hear like.
I don't. Is it still happening right now as I speak?
No.
Thanks for muting, Marcus.
Damn, sweating and you messing the stream up. God damn.
Oh, we got the super chats, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I got it. Oh damn, we got a lot of them.
All right. Reese Anderson. All this talk about women, about a woman not being happy. I think that goes both ways. A lot of y'all chicks are boring AF. Why y'all think we cheat so much?
God damn, Reese.
When did Reese turn red pill? I thought Reese was
straight up. When Trigger Mike started talking, that's why they came over to the dark side.
Gender war general.
Dub will. Inaz, the pendulum for marriage will swing back when laws start to change so that failed marriages aren't such a risky proposition for men.
So can I address this one real quick?
Yeah.
So that's not how laws work. Laws are very reactionary. They're not typically proactive. So society would need to change and laws would need to catch up to society. The majority
but you also got to agree that some of the laws are incentivizing the bad behavior.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with that point, right? Those laws were not designed to be incentives. They were reactionary to a lot of the situations that we're having where women were trapped in situations that weren't safe. They have now become incentivized, right? Because society has changed and laws have not caught up. But in order for those laws to change, society also needs to change, right? Laws are not proactive, not in the Western world. They're very reactive.
Well, I need a reactive law that says if you divorce me, give me my goddamn kids. How about that?
That used to be.
Yep, my kids are my biological property. You can't take them from me and make me pay for them. You can't do that. Don't worry, I'm working on a bill. Y'all
the children were
Trigger Mike for Texas. Y'all gonna vote for me?
All right, Congo English, HDTV, Godspeed. Me University. I got a man who will feed me till I die, wifey.
I want to know what this picture is all about.
Dub will. Nobody care. Marcus is 6'8". The 5'10" delegation is winning in these streets.
Hey, don't lie to all of us 6 feet or below people. Don't you like literally just want to beat a tall person's ass because they tall sometimes? I'm sorry, I do. I literally just want to like kick the shit out of your kneecaps and just watch you fall over.
No, you know what? Have you heard that?
Just like the little Yorkies that be yapping at the
Yorkie. You see the disrespect? This is what we've dealt with from these fucking beanstalks all our life.
Hey, have y'all heard that joke when Cat Williams says about Shaq and they're doing an interview and he was like, I can't even be his friend because his PP was like, Man, that's how I felt standing next to Marcus' ass. It was, bruh. Let's put some space here.
I'm not looking up to you like, hey, so what do you think? Nah, man, that's too high.
Me University. A woman over 30 is more comparable to an ex-pro athlete stuck in them glory days. Women just got to be realistic. Your whole life don't have to be luxury.
Facts.
Congo English. Modern Renaissance man. Godspeed. Let me say it. Malevolent. Malevolent elephant. Mistaken. Can you give an example on one behavior your husband checked you on? How did he bring it to your attention? I think I did before about the time that, I would always come in the house on the cell phone talking, and I didn't know that bothered him. And then he basically, told me that it bothers him and to stop coming in the house talking on the phone when I first get in, to acknowledge him and give him like maybe the first 10 minutes or what have you, just to check in. And so I did. Now that doesn't mean that I never slipped up, because again, that was
your husband is definitely going to be a chief at the boot camp. He's definitely going to be a chief at the boot camp. But you know why that's important, though? You know why that's important? Because like I keep telling y'all, I still disagree. If you do all of this, the average American woman, not even black woman, won't comply.
Why do you say that, though?
No, it won't comply because it's too much selfishness out here. What I think it is that my masculinity and me trying to create a good atmosphere in this home in which we're responsive, respectful to each other's needs, and making time for each other like your husband did. I need you to acknowledge me. I am your husband. Because it's what he really did was stop that from getting worse. Stopped it from you disregarding him to the point where you're on the phone, you go lay in the bed, and now you don't cook dinner. That's what my married friends are saying is happening. One behavior just carries over into another, and then not you, but women have complete disregard for their husbands because he never checked them on any of it. Right?
I agree.
I think the average woman, just the same way 70% of black men today were raised in single parent homes, mother homes, the women were too. So I think what I see a lot of my friends struggle with is that they'll get advice from me to do what your husband did, and the wife will be like, why? Modern women have a problem of not wanting to do anything they don't wholeheartedly agree with. That is why I'm saying they won't. Because if they'll be like, why? That's stupid. I'm talking to my friend. It's all about them. It's not about making time for him. It's like, what do you mean? I'm just on the phone. This is harmless. I'm not doing it. That's the response I think most men are going to get. Go ahead.
So to that, right, and what Mistaken was talking about earlier, sometimes answering that why, I understand as men that could be really annoying. But how much more productive would it be if your woman did not grow up with a father to be like, hey, listen, it just feels really disrespectful, right? I need to feel respected in my home, and this, you coming in on the phone every day, it's just not it, right? That why might sound super annoying, but if that woman literally does not know better, what's the problem in correcting? Because if I'm not, if I'm mistaken, did your husband not do that with you?
Yes, he did. And because I am definitely a why person. I didn't ask him why in that moment, but he did take the time to explain the why to me because he knows my personality. So he gave it to me before I asked. And that was what he said. He finds it to be very disrespectful. And because I care about it, I don't want to be disrespectful.
And to that Mistaken, that's why I said, now think about this, guys. When I just got done telling you guys, that's why in our program, we focus mainly on teaching them to be, men, husband, fathers, and vice versa with the ladies. Now, just think, when I was talking about correcting those behaviors out of them at an early age, once they even have that type of thing going, if they do become wives, look how much more receptive they would be to getting that correction with the husband explaining to them, hey, I don't like when you come in talking on the phone. But now, because of childhood, when they are corrected on something, they're more open to listen to why versus actually just I ain't got to what? What's the problem? I don't. You see what I'm saying? That's what I love about that is that by them coming in and you saying, I don't like when you do X, Y, and Z, and I explain to you why, it's like, oh, like you just said, I didn't even know that I was even doing that. I didn't even know it. But now that you do know, it's not like, well, I'm gonna have an attitude about that. That's nothing. I wouldn't think that a man should get upset over some petty stuff. Like, no, it's like, oh, man, I didn't know that would actually do this to him. So now I don't want to do something that I know is going to actually, upset him or hurt him or disappoint him.
And it was important for him to explain that to me because a lot of times we teach people how we want to be treated, right? Yeah. So I didn't find that to be disrespectful because it doesn't bother me if he was to do it. So my assumption was that wouldn't bother, it's not a big deal. And just because it doesn't bother me doesn't mean that wouldn't bother him. So I was thankful that he did explain it to me because in my mind, that is what I was thinking. Like, what's the big deal? Like, you're sitting here on the couch watching TV, like, and it doesn't matter. That's what I'm in my mind. But for him, it was no, when it just in general, when I come through the door or when you come through the door, the first thing is greeting, acknowledging, each other. Like
there's so many variables, you can be like, man, babe, I've been thinking about you all day. I couldn't wait for you to get home. I wanted to tell you something. I just couldn't. I thought about you just when you came to do. I just want to give you a kiss. What's up, babe? And you come in, girl. Yeah, hey, anyway.
Right. And sometimes that's what it was. It wasn't that I wouldn't be acknowledging him when I come through the door. I wasn't present, like fully acknowledging him. It's like, girl, hold on. Hey, babe. All right. And I'm going on about, my conversation. For him is, no, when you walk through the door, I need to connect with you when you get through the door. And I think part of that was to see what kind of mood I'm in. Me being able to get a read of how his day was, those kind of things. And I didn't think of it like that. So for him, is a matter of respect and just courtesy. And I got it after he explained it.
Let me actually speak on Inaz's point because you're right, Inaz. When you said, why can't he just explain? That is where we hit the roadblock. Remember I said mentorship cannot replace fatherhood? Even this is encompassed in that. The lack of fathers meant the lack of men being able to answer those questions for their woman. They were never taught. Many men were never taught. And it was never promoted that you had to. Because the women don't automatically know because they weren't taught by their moms, men don't know how to answer the questions that we feel women should already know. We have a problem. Remember, we had that back and forth that one time where we were like, well, men need to be more articulate and learn how to express themselves and communicate with women. And I said, men don't learn how to communicate with women until women give them the time of day. So it's literally a domino effect because when a woman says, well, why? Why should I have to do that? A majority of the men today are going to hit a roadblock and they're going to be upset that you just don't already know because you weren't taught. Like today's men are not articulate enough to just go back and forth because it's like, well, shit, I'm telling you, you're supposed to see how I internally feel about what you're doing and be like, you know what? Babe, I'm going to be unselfish. I didn't know you felt that way. But no, now this is an argument and I'm upset because you're upset. And I think that's going to happen with most couples.
Can I go after you, Inan?
Yeah, absolutely. So I hear what you're saying, Trigger Mike, but like, I think we also, going back to like men are not a monolith and neither are women, right? I come into my household, I live with my parents. That's just the way our culture works, right? Neither one of them has an issue with me coming in to the house on the phone. It's still, hang on a second. I greet them both. I greet them individually and carry on my conversation. Now, the man in my life might have an issue with that, right? But if I haven't been brought up, even though I was raised with my father, that's an issue, there's still a whole process of like, okay, well, I get the fact that something is wrong, but I don't understand why it's wrong to you. It's a part of learning the person. I think where the issue really is that a lot of men are so used to combative women that any question at all seems like confrontation. Right. Sometimes it's just, hey, I want to know how your brain operates. I'm not a man. And if I'm invested in you, I want to understand you so that in the future, I don't have to be explained so many times. I learn your pattern of behavior. Men and women alike want to get into that zone in a relationship where like everything is good, it's great, we're on autopilot. You got to answer why in order to get there, right? You have to learn each other. And if we're not doing that, how do we get to that place? We're just expecting it to just magically fall into place.
So I got to get, so you asked me a few weeks ago to get out of my bubble. I need you, Mistaken and Shan, to get out of your bubbles as women who like to listen and all this, because boy, y'all know I mean, my job title is director or something, but I'm basically a dean at a college. Okay. So I interface with students once they have a complete communication breakdown with their professors. I interface with them at that point. And if you would see the way these girls especially cannot be told shit, I agree with you. That's what it's supposed to look like. I need you to explain to me, well, you know what, babe, even an inarticulate man, you know what, babe, I just feel like, then you're going to go up there and talk with her for an hour. And then now we not eating at the table, and you know what I mean? And he's just going to talk like that and be like, what the fuck? That's stupid. I mean, shit, I'm here, ain't I? If you would see how bad this is with the lack of disregard for men, because it's supposed to work the way you're talking. It is literally supposed to work that way. But I'm telling you right now, when we all meet up, I don't know how we're gonna simulate this, but we're gonna go hit the streets and find some women and interview them and ask them these exact questions. I'm telling you, you'll be amazed.
Okay, so I have slight different perspective about all of this stuff that we got going on here. And I agree to a degree that, you know, women want to naturally respond to a person that they trust, know what they're talking about, right? They want to verify, you know, these things is accurate and this, that, and the third. But that speaks to what most women believe, which is they have a thought process of some sort of control. They're testing you to make sure that you are worthy of these things that, you know, you're asking them for. If you're asking them for submission, if you're asking them to follow you, this, that, and the third, like, you know, they want some evidence, some proof, right? So in my opinion, I do understand and I do agree at times you should be willing to reasonably explain certain things that, you know, your woman ask of you, you know, explain certain things. There are some things I don't think you should explain to a degree. There should be some things that you do these things for a specific reason, because oftentimes women will sit there and say, we're not children, but the way that they want to be led, they want to be led almost somewhat like children. They want the ability to ask questions. They want to know where they're going, why they're going. Like, instead of just having somewhat of a natural disposition, like, hey, listen, this is a person that I'm choosing. This is a person that I respect. Okay. He must be doing this for a good reason. I think that with a lot of women, they don't think men do the things they do for good reason. They have a natural discontempt to some degree because they've seen some of the men in their lives or other people's lives that they didn't think that what they did was very beneficial, you know. And that's kind of, you know, what I've seen, because I think you would hope that women be more willing to listen, but since they have been in control of their lives more so longer than anybody else, because sometimes the women don't even listen to their own parents, so they've been largely in control of their lives more so than anybody else. So why would I think that she would surrender that control magically to me just because she think that I know what I'm talking about?
He does have somewhat of a point, but I do say it. I go back to definitely say is about how you.
I got pink eye. You wasn't here earlier when I was trying to explain, so I can't put my contacts in, so I can't see nothing. So I'm like in a weird, yeah.
It's
Fight
about
back, Marcus. Fight back.
My bad, man.
how you carry yourself as a man. Like and to Inaz's point about taking the time to know who you with, that has to go both ways. Just like we have to study our husbands to see the pattern, develop pattern, and then start generalizing certain things to match up to say, well, I know he wouldn't like this, or he would love this, or whatever, is the same thing as well. I know recently, my husband and I would talk. I can't remember what we were talking about. And he was like, yo, sometimes, you just need to do stuff. Like you always, have to discuss, have to say something. And I'm like, yeah, but I said 9 times out of 10, I said, be honest, 9 times out of 10, don't I always end up doing what you say anyway? And he was like, yeah, you do. But he was like, if you're going to do it, then why even go through all of the, but that I hear that, but that is a part of my personality. So do you want to just go through the conversation with me and end up me doing what you asked or what we discussed or whatever it is, or not? At the end of the day, it's really about me following through what you asked. And I've done that. So in that regard, I'm respecting you. In my regard, respect my process as well. Like, this is my personality. I've been like this, forever. Is not something that's detrimental that I necessarily need to change, because it's going to ruin our marriage or what have you. If that's my personality, let me. I am a why person, and is not a why to just be combative or anything like that. Like, y'all see how much I talk. I am a talker. I love, I want to know why. And he actually encouraged that when we first met. He said, never take anything on face value. I don't care who it's from. And so now I'm like,
bite him in the butt.
Right. And so now you mad because I'm
that's why you be careful what you tell women.
Right. He's like, so now I'm like, okay, well, that's how I am. You encouraged it. Now you're trying to flip the script. But at the end of the day, I do follow suit in what he asks. So he got what he wanted. But now the transaction between that is, let me get mine off too and have the conversation. And I'll go ahead and do what you did. What you asked.
We're talking about conversations. I was like, what? All right. So I think we're about to shut it down, y'all. This has been a good one. Mm-hmm. My black ass is tired. Shit, Marcus got pink eye shit, sweating. So when you gonna follow suit? God damn, I was looking at my like the AC can't be out and he just streaming. No way. No way.
That boy was going through it.
Blink
2 times if you need help.
Yo, this is streaming gold, bro.
Look, he said he's sweating like Patrick Ewing in the 4th quarter. I was
hey, but for real, Marcus, you got
knowing I feel better.
He has pink eye.
Yeah.
You like legit?
Yeah, well, it's on the last days now. Like that 5 to 7.
So you've been taking medicine for it?
My man, last suffer.
Hell no, you let that eye ride out.
Marcus.
He ain't got the boogers no more, Doc. That's
Should
what
you
he's
be sweating with pink eye though? I never heard.
That's why I'm concerned.
You can get
That's
but
why
this not a help. This not a help
I
call.
get boogerish every time. My kid brought me that like 3 times.
No, that's the reason why I asked, because I know you can. I mean, I know you can have pink eye or conjunctivitis, but I mean, you kind of sweating. So that's why I checked them. I just wanted to just check on you real quick, just in case. I mean,
yeah, I appreciate it. I got it though.
What does that mean?
On the men. In fact, fuck that. He's not on the men. You was sweating. I'm gonna go.
I'm just saying, if your body, right. I'm just saying, if your body is throwing a fever right now, I just want to make sure you ain't got no other infection going on. I mean, I'm trying to help you.
No, I appreciate it, but I got it.
Nah, but it's hot. It's summer.
Hey, I don't do work up in Chicago no more. So if something happened, I can't get to you.
I'm good. I got it.
My dude.
But just know, Mike, you got a million jokes coming. Who else?
Nah, it's all good. It will never take away the recording of your ass sitting this close to the camera talking about
You know, I had to
I can't see.
Yo, Marcus is like
You
he
didn't even
popping
know.
Molly in his
You didn't
segment.
even know.
It kept that sweat kept his hair moisturized.
Then you
Oh,
lean
that boy
back.
soul
cold.
glow. I got a soul glow. You
Look,
looking like
I didn't
the
know what
grown
to
up
think,
Michael
man.
Jackson. What'd you say?
Yeah. All right, y'all. Do we have any super chats? No, I think that's all the super chats for tonight. Thank y'all for coming through. Yeah, this is another dope one, man. Great crew. All right, y'all.
Good night.
Anybody got any last words?
Nope. See you next Friday, same time, same place.
Indeed. Have a good night, everybody.